Welcome to TPUSA Live. So glad that you're back. I am John Root, sitting next to
Isabel Brown, and we are so excited to be spending some time with you from right here at TPUSA HQ.
Yeah, we have a lot of great content today. We're going to go over today's live stream, what you can look forward to. Also, we'll get into sports a little bit. You know, I love that.
Oh, John's favorite.
And then we'll talk about what Tucker Carlson had to say about the governor of Texas and the border crisis. And then we'll sprinkle in a little bit of news you might not hear in other content throughout the live stream.
We are going to kick things off today with Jack Posobiec, the man, the myth, the legend, out of Washington, D.C., and his new show, Human Events Daily, talking about today's news. Subjects like the leaked documents showing that the Wuhan lab in China did plan to create and release a human transmissible COVID virus. Huge news. Everything happening with our Vice President Kamala Harris calling for an investigation into the Biden administration's handling of the southern border. But I'm sorry, aren't you in charge of that, Vice President Kamala?
Last time I checked, she is the border czar. So
yeah, I guess we'll see how that all goes. And Jack's also going to jump into MSNBC's flip-flopping coverage of COVID-19 over the last few months and even more.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. And then also, too, there is some bombshell news about Bill Gates' relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that he'll dive into. So a lot of good stuff in Human Events Daily. But after that, we got TPUSA Live. We'll be back here on the couch. Isabel's going to be joining us. We also got TPUSA contributor Aaron Elmore and TPUSA ambassador Anthony Watson.
Rock star group. We are so excited to be here today for that.
It's going to be a great show. We're going to go over Joy Reid's racially driven. Oh my gosh.
You know, John, can I just say, before we talk about this, every time Joy Reid opens her mouth, I can't possibly fathom a scenario where she sounds like more of a lunatic. And then a few days go by and we have a whole nother scenario. But we're diving into Joy Reid's comments about how the missing case of Gabby Petito and missing persons case really signifies how we only care about missing white people in this country, apparently.
I mean, that could easily fit into our next installment of What in the World Wednesday.
Seriously.
We're going to share some of the wackiest stuff on the internet. Also, you have to see this atrocious first pitch.
It was horrible from Conor McGregor at last night's Cubs game.
Just when you thought 50 Cent's first pitch couldn't be outdone.
Or, you know, Dr. Fauci's first pitch even. This was pretty bad, I'm just saying.
It was terrible. But after that, we got some weekly shows. We got On the Front Lines with Isabel Brown, and then we also got Smash with MAGA Hulk Stephen Davis.
So excited to share with you guys some really great stories with our new shows, including On the Front Lines. I had the pleasure to interview Olivia Sander, who recently made national news headlines because as an incoming freshman to, of all schools, BYU Hawaii, she was denied a medical exemption for her autoimmune disease and was forced to either get the COVID-19 vaccine or not attend her dream school at BYU Hawaii. So she decided not to go and is now courageously fighting for medical freedom for college students all over the country. I'm very, very excited for you to hear her story and all of the crazy COVID stuff happening on campus nationwide.
And then right after that, we got POPlitics with Alex Clark. She's going to talk about the Gabby Petito case as well, and then the controversy surrounding the star in Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings. So
I also hear she's going to tell us who she's dying to have on the spillover, which you guys can watch every Friday. It's been an awesome podcast to listen to so far. Yeah,
Alex needs your help, so make sure you watch POPlitics, and then you're going to have to tag this specific person that we won't tell you about just yet. You got to watch POPlitics. But let's get into a little bit of sports. The Manning Cast for Monday Night Football. It's on ESPN.
Love this show. It's so incredible. Fun. I love Peyton Manning. Obviously, I'm a Broncos girl, so I was happy with the direction that it went. But really exciting to see this type of content start coming out in sports, I think.
Yeah, like they had a very great debut, and then now they had the Packers-Lions game and actually increased viewership by 132%. You had people like Rob Gronkowski on, you had Pat McAfee, and then even Peyton Manning was sharing, you know, if I had to have a really tough conversation with a teammate, I'd have it in the showers because when we're playing in New England, I think they might be bugging my locker room.
Spicy. Speaking of spicy, Tucker Carlson also just called out Governor Greg Abbott this week, John, about why the National Guard hasn't been more involved with what's happening with the crisis at our border. Really interesting to see some of those conversations happening.
Yeah, he was inviting him on the show, and then obviously Governor Abbott has not inclined that offer. But right after that, we have some breaking news. We got a brand new dress uniform prototype for the U.S. Space Force. We're going to take a look at that. So Jack Posobiec shared on Twitter too what these are all about. It kind of it has a Star Trek feel.
I like it. I think they look great.
Yeah, but it features the Vandenberg stripes after General Vandenberg, who's the Vandenberg Space Force named after him, and also we got the foundational delta and the hexagonal.
So excited to see this coming out of our newest branch of the military. There's so much more coming to you in the next few hours of TPUSA Live. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next is Human Events Daily.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily. This is your evening briefing. First story tonight, the Wuhan lab. New leaked documents talk about what they were planning and new information about what was going on, releasing viruses into caves. Second, Kamala Harris calling for an investigation into the illegal Haitian migrant handling at the border. Third, MSNBC, we're going to play an old clip where they were talking about a rushed COVID vaccine from last year. And finally, Bill Gates grilled over Jeffrey Epstein ties. All of this and more ahead. Human Events Daily. Our first story tonight is kind of insane, but we're going to have to talk about it anyway because we've got it and this is the world we live in now. The Wuhan Institute of Virology leaked documents have been obtained by the group known as Drastic Research. Go follow these guys. They've been doing excellent work on Wuhan and everything that's come out since. This is a grant proposal that was made from Wuhan, by the way, though, not to the Department of Health, not to the NIH and Fauci's agency. No. This was a proposal that was made to DARPA, which is the U.S. military's research and development organization. Let's take a look at what they found. But before we do that, I want to play for you a clip of Fauci from just earlier this year. Take a listen.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition.
No gain of function, we're told. There was no gain of function whatsoever going at the Wuhan lab, and if it was, it certainly wasn't funded by the United States. Let me tell you the grant proposal that was made to DARPA now, that was made to the US military. I'm just going to read to you the table of contents because, quite frankly, I think that's shocking enough and certainly calls for a higher degree of investigation because, again, these are experiments that they were talking about doing. They were trying to get funding with EcoHealth Alliance from the US military. They were refused. But the question remains, did these experiments go on? And did some of this, because we can see from further studies, certainly we see evidence that they did perform some of these experiments. Here's what the documents say. Number one, EcoHealth Alliance trying to bypass the gain-of-function framework. Number two, the review framework. Number two, EcoHealth Alliance would have used taxpayer money to pay Shizhong Li, the top Chinese bat scientist at the Wuhan lab. Third, it's called Project Defuse. They would have invited Shizhong Li to a project kickoff at DARPA headquarters. They had 3 cave sites in Yunnan for SARS-CoV connection. Third, EHA planned to inoculate wild bats with aerosolized vaccines. Do you understand this? They were going to spray aerosol level vaccines into the caves to inoculate the bats. There's so much in here. Live bats were meant to be used at the Wuhan Institute and various international labs for infection experiments, often using captive bat entire colonies. 3 to 5 chimeric coronaviruses were to be created per year. The proposal included the introduction of human-specific cleavage sites. Now, when I'm talking about human-specific cleavage sites, you're like, what does that mean? They were humanizing the mice, and they were creating viruses that would be more specifically able to infect human cells, the ACE2 receptors. This is what the project was. This is what the proposal was. They wanted to create 3 to 5 chimeric viruses per year. And what does it say that they were specifically doing? Well, according to the DARPA documents, they wanted to introduce human cleavage sites into the virus. What does this mean? For the entire time that scientists have been studying COVID-19, they've been asking, where did these human cleavage sites come from? What is a human cleavage site? What are we talking about? It has a unique ability to affect human ACE2 receptors. Remember the spike proteins? The spike proteins we're talking about? This is where that comes from. What was going on? Why was the Wuhan Institute of Virology specifically talking about releasing these viruses, about making chimeric viruses, and making viruses that were more transgenically able to infect humans? Go to humanevents.com. We have the entire story up there. This is a massive scandal. This is something that the US government, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, other independent, etc. All of the United States needs to know what was going on in that lab. Not only what did we fund or what didn't we fund, what were they doing, what came out, and how did it infect the rest of the world? Stay tuned. We have a lot more coming up next. Human Events Daily. So this is one of those stories where I've talked about it before. I'll say it again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a White House Shade War update. We need like a graphic there. We need some like, producers, get me music, get me a graphic. I want the Shade War update in here. They're laughing because I didn't tell them beforehand that we were gonna do that, but we're gonna do it live. We're gonna do it live. Anyway, White House Shade War update, border edition. We've got news now from AP saying that the Biden administration is not processing all of these illegal Haitian migrants and sending them all back home. No. We've got news coming out from US officials that are their sources saying that the Haitian migrants that have come illegally into Del Rio, Texas, are now being released en masse into the United States. We talked about this last week here on the show. They are being let go on the honor system. They are not all being deported. I told you this was coming. I told you this is what we were gonna see. But now, Kamala Harris has come out. And I wanna play this clip for you because it's really amazing. This clip is just amazing. You gotta watch this thing. I'm like speechless. Go look at this clip.
What I saw depicted about those individuals on horseback treating human beings the way they were is horrible. And I fully support what is happening right now, which is a thorough investigation into exactly what is going on there. But human beings should never be treated that way. And I'm deeply troubled about it. The whole point is that we have to understand Haiti. I mean, talk about a country that has just experienced so much tragedy that has been about natural disasters. And we really have to do a lot more to recognize that as a member of the Western Hemisphere, we've got to support some very basic needs that the people of Haiti have to get back up.
So you caught that, right? You caught what she was saying there. You caught what she was doing. Understand the analysis that I've been giving you. Understand the lens that we're looking at this through. This is the White House shade war. This is Team B versus Team K. This is Team K using that sort of phony, fake Blue Anon scandal that was out there. Remember that one? They were claiming this. A bunch of like very online people were claiming that border agents were whipping migrants, right? It obviously was not happening. Those are called reins. Like if you've ever ridden a horse before, maybe if you didn't grow up in a city or actually spend some time like in the real world, you'd know what reins are. You'd understand how to ride a horse. But here's the situation. Kamala Harris has come out and is using the anger that's been brought up by this on her side to drive a wedge in the White House. Because when it comes down to it, Who's really in control of the border? Yeah, I know Biden said, oh, that's going to be Kamala. No. Who's really in charge here? It's the Biden administration. Everything that comes down is a Biden administration situation, right? And I saw there were a lot of people trying to dunk on Kamala Harris and say, oh, you were supposed to be in charge of it and you didn't go, et cetera, et cetera. And those are all reasonable and fair criticisms, and I get that. But I'm trying to explain to you the inside politics, the palace intrigue of what's going on. And here in Human Events Daily, we give you the high impact analysis. Be good, be brief, be gone. We are giving you the bottom line up front. So that's why I say share this out with your normie friends, get everybody who's trying to understand this White House in, right? This isn't political. I'm not attacking Kamala Harris for this. I'm explaining what she's doing. And what she's doing is she's using it to undercut the Biden administration. Because at the end of the day, people know that wasn't Donald Trump that sent all this situation in motion, right? He wanted to build what? A wall, right? That's just a fact. Everybody is pretty clear about it, by the way, that he said he wanted a wall there. I think he may have mentioned it once or twice. You would see his fans obviously chanting at the rallies to build the wall. So yeah, walls not whips, right? Here's the situation though. Her team has constantly been throwing shade on Joe Biden. We talked about it last week with the whole Nicki Minaj situation. Which side was it, do you think, that called Nicki Minaj? It wasn't Joe Biden's side. It was Team Kamala. Now Team Biden knows that they're the ones, and by the way, rightfully so, because they are the ones who are like actually in charge. It's not Kamala Harris's crisis. It's Biden's crisis. It's Mayorkas, who's supposed to be the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who went down there and said, oh, this isn't happening and we're not supposed to worry about it. Go watch his video. It was ridiculous. Nobody believes him. The guy's got no full faith and credit, for Mayorkas, and the Biden administration has none. So Kamala, again, sees this as the opportunity to be able to throw him under the bus. Because the dirty little secret of the Biden administration is that they are at open shade war with each other. They know that Joe Biden's poll numbers have been fading. They know that Kamala Harris seems like she is the inevitable. And that is why her team has been referring to him, according to sources, as the Titanic. They are referring to Joe Biden as the Titanic. Just reporting what I hear, folks. Just reporting what I hear. That's the story, that's the news, that's what's going on down at the border, and Kamala Harris is now using it to gain points off of Joe Biden. But you do have to ask yourself, by the way, why is it that they're treating Haitian migrants like this and not everybody else? Interesting question. Stay tuned, because right ahead, we're coming up Human Events Daily. We are going to go back a little bit to what MSNBC was saying about the COVID vaccine just last year. Stay tuned. Get the vaccine! Get the vaccine, or else you'll be put on a list. Pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's what we're told, right? That's what we're told again and again, especially from MSNBC, from the bully pulpit of the White House, from Jen Psaki, et cetera, Fauci on down. Yet, here's an interesting clip. I wanted to go back and play, and I'm gonna do a favor. This is free publicity from me out of the goodness of my Christian heart to MSNBC, and I'm going to replay one of their interviews, a package, as you will, as we say in the business, that they ran in September 2020 during the last weeks of the election, talking all about vaccines. Because, ladies and gentlemen, what we do at Human Events Daily, we always have the receipts. Take a listen.
Look, every healthcare professional that you speak with, medical, public health professional, they're all going to say that they're eagerly awaiting a vaccine. There's no question about that. But the issue is that the vaccine, remember, this is going to be a medication that we plan to inoculate into 200-300 million people in this country, not to mention globally. We need absolute reassurance that this medication, this vaccine, has undergone all the appropriate phases of clinical trials in terms of safety and efficacy. And so as you probably know, the vaccines that are undergoing clinical trials right now, phase 3, that's that phase where it's testing not only a large number of people, 30, 40,000, but it's not just the number, but it's the timeline. It's monitoring for possible potential adverse events. You can't just notice those things in just 20, 30 days. If there are neurologic manifestations, cardiac, rheumatologic, autoimmune, that's going to take months to reveal. And so my concern is that we're really rushing through this vaccine development process. And just to remind remind your viewers, Katie, the fastest we've ever developed a vaccine for safe delivery into patients has been 4 years. The fact that we're trying to do this for this novel disease in less than a year, it makes a lot of us quite skeptical, Katie.
So what's astounding about that clip with Dr. Libby Roy, who is someone who goes on MSNBC all the time, if you go to view her now, if you go to look at her Twitter, she has the hashtag #GetVaccinated in her Twitter profile. And so yet this is the same person who just 1 year ago was saying all of the same things that if you talk to people who are vaccine hesitant, the same issues that they are having now. This kind of goes to show you that vaccine hesitancy isn't necessarily a left-right thing, because all of last year, you had the left, you had MSNBC saying the exact same things that you're hearing people say now. It's not a political issue, no matter how much the White House is trying to frame it as one. You have people that are hesitant, that are worried, that are skeptical of many of the potential side effects of the vaccine, right? And I'm not getting into the science of it. I'm talking about the psychology of it. So when the White House comes out and when the left comes out and they try to bash people over the heads with it, and they try to scream and yell and use the hammer and use the stick and everything else they can do to demand your compliance, to make sure that you have to comply with this. You've got Fauci out there talking about potentially domestic internal travel will require internal passports, which, by the way, is a Chinese system. It's called the Hukou system. It's this idea that you need a specific document that allows you to travel, to work, to live in various areas within your own country, right? Understand that just 1 year ago, in the run-up to the election, so let's talk about electioneering. It's amazing to me how the science changes, by the way, before the election and after the election. So before the election, the MSNBC, who of course are the purveyors of science, tell us, yes, this is the science, and you have to be skeptical, and these are very serious questions. But then after the election, it's anybody who asks those questions is crazy, and you are a very, very bad anti-vaxxer, and you need to shut up, and you need to be censored, you need to be shut down. People are sick of it. People are sick of the back and forth. People have serious questions. Pregnant women, families who are trying to get pregnant, people with kids, people who have potential immunocompromised systems, people with pre-existing conditions, people with comorbidities. They have questions. What if, as a country, we decided that instead of telling people to shut up, we actually tried to listen to what they had to say? You know, that's something I always tried to say when I was in the military. It's something I always try to say in my personal life. Meet people where they are. Meet people where they are, understand what their concerns are, and talk through them instead of trying to talk down to them, to attack them, and to tear them apart. That's how you have an actual conversation. Next up, Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein. You don't want to miss this. Jeffrey Epstein. You know, this is one of those stories that we're told not to really talk about, and yet I think it's one of those ones where people just have so many questions about what really went down, what happened, and yet the story seems to have just kind of disappeared. It's like, you know, industrial level human trafficking to an island. So many of the elites tied into this, and yet no questions asked, no full investigation, no list of the clients, because that's really what it's really about, right? We understand who Jeffrey Epstein was and what he did, and he should have been prosecuted, and that was the right move. But I think the broader investigation obviously should have always been into who were his clients and what was going on. And by the way, why were there so many elite people that were tied to him? When some of the richest of the rich were involved with this guy, that were flying to the island, that were going on the airplane, et cetera, et cetera. They were taking donations from him. Well, finally, somebody, and it's PBS, and my hat is off, and I don't know where it happened, my hat is off to you, to Judy Woodruff at PBS, because she went to Bill Gates, and because, you know, the sort of the power dynamic has changed on Bill Gates now, like you can hit him on this stuff, she finally grilled him over his Jeffrey Epstein ties. Take a listen.
It was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continued to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful. I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. Very proud of the work of the foundation. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
That was incredible. That was real journalism. Folks, you don't see it much, you don't see it often, but that was real journalism. Speaking truth to those in power. Saying the things that those in power don't want you to say and asking questions that actually have impact. The Jeffrey Epstein story is one that is never going to go away until all of the questions are answered. And I support full transparency and all that. The amount of human trafficking, the women and girls underage who are involved in this, it's disgusting. And the people who met with him and continued to work with him, even after all of this came out, need to be held to account, whether through this or through investigation or through prosecution. It's as simple as that. No more Jeffrey Epsteins. That is it for the show. This is your fastest rundown of the news, your evening briefing here on Human Events Daily. Again, we give you the bottom line up front, but we need you to be the influence agent. Share this with your normie friends, subscribe to it wherever podcasts are found, get out there, continue following Turning Point Live. But before we go, for today's moment of history, folks, we lost a good one this week. Angelo Codevilla, a professor of philosophy, a conservative, and a stalwart defender of the American people. Go read his seminal book, Ruling Class. This is a man, he was born in Italy, immigrated to America, served in the US Navy, understood the intelligence community for what it really is, and defended the American people to the absolute last. Hats off to you, Angelo Codevilla. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
If you want to see an example of failed socialism, go to an Indian reservation.
A lot of the soldiers were very aggressive, so the women did get raped.
Muerte means a place of suffering, dying, starvation, nothing good.
I didn't realize how corrupt things were. I didn't realize what kind of environment we were living in.
We had no running water, we had no power.
They de-incentivize people from, opportunity.
That's why our suicide rate has climbed up astronomical rates. I think that's what I'm also projecting to my people, even if I have to fight you to save you.
Critical race theory is the most racist thing that is being spread in popular life in America.
Critical race theory is bigoted. It is a lie.
Racism is now being taught to our kids.
Dividing kids based on race, trying to say some are oppressors and some are oppressed is absolutely unacceptable.
CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color.
It's not critical race theory. It's racism.
Hey everyone, welcome to TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, John Root, and this is TPUSA Live. Here's the rundown. We'll cover some noteworthy news in the daily briefing. Next, we'll discuss Joy Reid's racially fueled comments regarding the Gabby Petito case. Then we'll discuss how immigration at the border is out of control. We'll tell you about how the Biden administration's mixed messaging and how Haitian deportees assaulted pilots and ICE members. Stick around for another installment of What in the World Wednesday, where we share some of the wackiest content on the internet. Finally, we'll cover one of the newest members of the Professor Watch List, followed by what may be the worst first pitch I think I've ever seen, in one last thing. Let's get this thing going. TPUSA Live from HQ starts now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Look at these amazing guests we got today. Erin Elmore is back, TPUSA contributor. How are you?
Good, thanks for having me.
Man, day two, you're already great on day one. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like.
Good things to come today.
There we go. And we also got the host of On the Frontlines coming out a little bit later today. Isabel Brown, welcome.
Thanks for having me, John. Excited to be here after we opened things up this morning. So much more to cover.
You guys are getting a lot of Isabel Brown and John Root today. I hope you like that. And then you're going to get a lot of TPUSA Ambassador Anthony Watson today.
Oh, I'm excited to be back.
Well, we got to tell you about some of the most noteworthy news of the day. We're going to start with this. So Monica Lewinsky has a documentary coming out called 15 Minutes of Shame. It's going to come out on HBO Max on October 7th, and here's what it's going to be all about. Taking an in-depth look into the deep, dark world of public shaming and cancel culture. And they say the doc will also explore bullies, bystanders, the media, psychologists, and politicians. I wonder who is going to be involved in that documentary. What do you think, Erin?
It won't be Bill Clinton, right?
No chance. Not the former president. No way.
Okay. Well, I do think it's good that Monica Lewinsky is using what had been a negative thing that had happened to her and she'd been a part of to turn her platform into anti-bullying, to try to at least turn the narrative from a negative into a positive. So good for her for really using that platform and helping other people, because if she's helping people through a tragedy that was her own, she can really help those people grow and experience better things in life.
Yeah, you know, I think she was really one of the first victims of cancel culture as we know it from a modern perspective, where the media narrative was so strong that there was really only one side to the story ever presented in what happened when she was interning at the White House. So to see her come out on the other side of that, poke fun at herself and make light of the situation every once in a while, but also really encourage people to strive for the truth, to bring the truth to light, even when the narrative is so strong in the opposite direction, I think is so inspiring. So kudos to her, and I'm really excited to watch this documentary.
Yeah, I think it can make a huge impact, but there's also negative impacts happening on universities across the country. You know all about that, being the host of On the Frontlines.
Sure do.
But get a load of this story, Isabella, and everybody watching. So students at Point Park University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, received an email that said action will be taken over complaints of misgendering or pronoun misuse, according to the school's anti-discrimination policy. They're calling this the preferred name policy, and they said any individual who is informed of another person's gender identity, pronouns, or chosen name is expected to respect that individual, and action will be taken if you misgender somebody.
Action. What do they mean by that? Action will be taken if you refuse to follow someone's preferred pronouns?
You could kick them out of school. And I mean, that's really scary. As an attorney, I think to myself, okay, if you're going to start invading, first of all, if this school gets any money from the government, which I think that they do, there are First Amendment implications there. So if they do, then that's a major problem. And what I always say in the law also is this is a slippery slope. Because now if it's matter of she or they, what if you use the B word or say another word that's air quotes inappropriate? This is just a slippery slope into tyranny and censorship.
Well, and not to mention they specifically say that you have to be informed of somebody's preferred pronouns first in order for this to be enforceable. But that slippery slope is so dangerous. What if at some point they create a new policy on this college campus that even if you didn't know, even if someone physically appears to look a certain way, they're obviously going to be punished.
So what it is using pronouns to censor.
Yeah, exactly.
And then now they're trying to ruin one of the greatest franchises in the history of film. 007, No Time to Die is coming out. Daniel Craig, I think he is the best James Bond out there. That might be a
I would
hot
agree.
take.
I would totally agree.
But you guys are young. I feel like the old James Bonds are really cool too.
But the controversy that's out there.
Pierce Brosnan was really good.
Pierce Brosnan's good, but they're trying
Sean
to
Connery, yeah.
potentially make James Bond a woman now. So what they're saying now with No Time to Die, which premieres in theaters October 8th, they're saying that it stars a woman that's also an MI6 agent, and it's Nomi, also a 00 agent, so License to Kill, just in case you forgot.
Is she gonna go by Jamie Bond?
I haven't heard that
No one
theory.
is being
That's a
told
new
that.
one,
Like,
actually.
since we're talking about like misgendering, like what are we supposed to call? Can I say her?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think you can say her. Because that's the controversy here. And then actually Daniel Craig, who plays James Bond right now in No Time to Die, this is what he had to say. Why should a woman play James Bond when there should be a part just as good as James Bond, but for a woman? So he's coming out and saying like, hey, we can have women involved in 007. Let's have them be a part of this franchise. They're a huge part of this. But James Bond being a woman, why are we making this change?
Honestly, good for Daniel Craig, because this really reminds me of the comments that J.K. Rowling was putting out a few years ago on Twitter, and all of this controversy ended up stirring up. But it's essentially saying men and women don't have to be exactly the same. We don't have to erase all of the genders differences that we're seeing between men and women, biologically or otherwise, in order to have a progressive society. Women can still be badass. They can still be M16 agents that go out and save the world, but they don't have to take over the entire caricature of James Bond. We saw that also with the Oceans film franchise. We saw a lot of that with the whole women's remake, and there has to be all female characters and no men can be involved. Honestly, I thought that really fell flat, so I think that could be a really big mistake.
And who says women aren't appreciated in James Bond films? Whenever
Exactly.
anyone thinks of James Bond, you think of women. You don't even think of the spy stuff.
And James Bond definitely does think of women.
Call me old-fashioned, but the idea of a Bond girl, there's something great about
It's
that.
awesome. Yeah.
I like gender roles. I like being a feminine female and a woman, and I like that you guys are very manly men. And I think we should celebrate the differences between men and women instead of shun them.
And then coming up next, Joy Reid somehow made the Gabby Petito case about race. Of course she did. We'll talk to you in a few minutes.
In these United States of America, this great country of ours, we American Indians, we can be anything we want to be, except American Indians.
A lot of the soldiers were very aggressive, so the women did get raped.
What we call muerte. Muerte means a place of suffering, dying, starvation, nothing good. Just like Nazi concentration camps.
I didn't realize how corrupt things were. I didn't realize what kind of environment we were living in.
We had no running water, we had no power.
They de-incentivize people from, opportunity.
That's why our suicide rate has climbed up astronomical rates.
I moved from the poorest county in America, Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, to the richest area in the country, the Navajo Indian Reservation. There is no difference. The poorest and richest reservations in our nation suffer from identical problems. This is not anything new. This is an everyday occurrence in all tribal governments.
So my life and my tale and my truth has been to fight socialism. And I'm hoping that I can wake up as many Navajos as I can to tell them that you can do this. Yeah, even if I have to fight you to save you. And I think that's what I'm also projecting to my people. Even though they are so harsh on social media and they completely hammer at me, I tell them, I'll be here even if I have to fight you to save you.
Well, welcome back to TPUSA Live in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. We're at TPUSA HQ with TPUSA contributor Aaron Elmore. We got Isabel Brown, host of On the Frontlines, also TPUSA contributor. And we got Anthony Watson back, TPUSA ambassador. And Joy Reid from Read Out on MSNBC. So we've been following the Gabby Petito case for a long time throughout the week here on TPUSA Live. And somehow she's got to find a way to make it about race. She said,
about her.
Of course, naturally.
Because that's what she's trying to do. Is like obviously.
Isabel, you have to say your comment.
Oh, we were saying in the break, it's so
good.
ironic to me that this woman's name is Joy, because she's maybe the least joyful person on the face of planet Earth. But these comments in particular are just really beyond the pale to me.
And this is what she said. She said, this is missing white woman syndrome that's causing the interest in the Gabby Petito case. So she said this on her show, Read Out, and noted that there's inconsistent coverage when it comes to people of color. This is what she had to say.
But the way this story has captivated the nation has many wondering, why not the same media attention when people of color go missing? Well, the answer actually has a name, missing white woman syndrome, the term coined by the late and great Gwen Ifill to describe the media and public fascination with missing white women like Lacey Peterson or Natalie Holloway, while ignoring cases involving missing people of color.
Well, she only named 2 white women, so I guess the tally can't be that high. If it's a syndrome, I'd expect her to have like at least 10 people if it was a syndrome.
Yeah, and this is what it comes down to. Everything has to be about race.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, they make it between a white and a black thing. But Alex Clark tweeted out something yesterday. Please bring that up.
She did. Something I had really forgotten about. I interned under the Trump administration in 2018, and some of these conversations were sort of starting to come to light at that time. But by the end of 2020, the Trump administration had actually gone out of their way to work on cases of missing and murdered Native American women and children, which was such a big story that never got the coverage it deserved in the mainstream media. So let's talk about media coverage, not talking about what's really important here, Joy Reid. So Savannah's Act was a very important piece of legislation, again passed in late 2020, that was named for a woman named Savannah LaFontaine Graywind, who was a pregnant 22-year-old killed in 2017 in North Dakota. Once that legislation was passed, as well as the Not Invisible Act, which mandated the creation of a commission that included all law enforcement officers from tribal, state, and local law enforcement communities. It mandated that commission to study Native American human trafficking, to talk to survivors that have been through that and do everything we can. And then on top of that, President Trump even went out of his way to pledge an additional $295 million to support public safety and crime victims in the Native American community specifically. Did you hear Joy Reid say one peep about that in 2020? So make no mistake about it. This is not about race for Joy Reid. This is about using the very tragic situation of this beautiful young woman who's just been brutally murdered. We're about to find out more details from her autopsy
And then race baiting.
to push a political agenda and race bait
And that's
you.
really sad because we know now that Gabby, Petito?
Yeah, Gabby Petito.
So she was a victim of abuse, physical abuse.
She was, yeah.
And physical abuse, I worked in an abused women's shelter, and it was just a devastating experience. And what you see there is it transcends race, color, and socioeconomic status. And maybe this is a moment that Joy could have turned it into a conversation. Hey, if you're out there and that you're a victim of abuse, call this number, get in touch with a hotline.
Yeah.
We know that this isn't about black, white, rich, or poor. It's about women, and you might not have a voice. Here's a phone number to call. We'll get you some help.
And you are never alone, regardless of what you look like. We talked a little bit about that last week here on TPUSA Live, or this week even with the Gabby Petito case, discussing that all of these women sometimes feel so isolated, they feel so targeted, and like they never have anyone to reach out to. And when we're constantly focused on physical attributes like race, like, oh, no one cares if you're a white woman who's been abused, or no one cares if you're a black woman or a Native American or an Asian woman that's been abused, how can we even have progressive conversations actually giving women and children who are victims of this type of crime the help that they need? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, she doesn't actually want to help.
No,
that's true.
She had an opportunity to help.
Yeah.
She had moments where she could have helped several women across the country. Instead, she turned it into a race-baiting political conversation to be divisive.
Well,
and it would have made more, I think there would have been more cohesiveness together as a person who happens to be colored in media, making a case for somebody of the Caucasian persuasion. since we can't say white anymore.
You can say white on this show as much as you
Oh,
want.
I love my white people, but it's just like media has literally turned everything on the opposite, you know.
did,
and
yeah.
like when it comes to race baiting, people have found a way to weaponize it to where you don't want to talk about it anymore. You know, I feel comfortable here, and I mean, like I'm, you know, the only one with a tan on the show today. So, I mean, like I've
That's
never
not
felt,
my vocabulary. I don't know.
you know.
I'm sunscreen inhibited.
Oh yeah. So in situations like this is classic just victimization. But in my honest opinion, when I look at that, you know, from someone in her position, a couple of months ago, you remember when it was all BLM stuff and it was just like all the crimes and all this stuff are happening to black people, but here she is reporting it about white people, and it's like it doesn't matter.
Well, she's treating it like it doesn't matter. And there was a huge missed opportunity for her here. She's saying the only reason we're obsessed with this case is because she's a white person, and somehow trying to dive into that division as much as humanly possible. Wrong. The reason America is so interested in this case is because she's so relatable. So many Americans see themselves in Gabby Petito. She's trying to make it as an influencer and share her very cool experience driving around to the national parks in the American West, living van life. That's really, really popular.
Well, that's what people needed to know. Like,
right
why
now.
does this gain so much traction? That's what it comes down to. It's like, well, why is this case so big? And then you were
they see
mentioning that.
themselves in her content, and more importantly, young women see themselves in her. So many young women have experienced manipulative or abusive relationships that maybe they didn't necessarily feel like they had a way out of. Maybe people didn't even know something was going on behind the scenes. And for this one particular instance, it was too late. And I think so many people took the time this week to really reflect and say, wow, thank God maybe I got out of that situation. Or are there women in my own life that are experiencing that? How can I help them? How can we end this
Or
moving
you can
forward?
see the signs. Maybe they said, oh, these are the behaviors that he was showing. I'm not going to get in that relationship, or I'm in a relationship with someone like that. Maybe I should exit now. This is an opportunity for me to learn and grow from her.
And the impact of social media too. So this was shared on TikTok like crazy.
It was crazy.
So this wasn't just mass media sharing this. This is gaining some social media buzz. So everyone's wondering, like, why does this case take off? Obviously, there's other sides of the spectrum where it's like, well, why does the George Floyd case take off the way it does? Obviously, that's mass media taking and running with it. But a case like this, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, other social media really making sure that this story's coming to light. And people were very, very invested in something like this. So a lot of times we look to like, well, how's mass media spinning this? It's like this gaining traction because social media and because of actual people.
Well, I know Isabel was literally filling me in on a lot of the details, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But she brought up a good point. She said that social media actually helped in this case because there were so many people that had eyes where reporters and police couldn't be, that actually helped get it to where it is now. Now there's still a lot that's unsolved, but you know, for the majority of what was figured out was through a lot of people literally being like, hey, this happened, this, and you know, it was kind of like getting puzzle pieces handed to you rather than having to go look for them and then try to fill it out. So I mean, like, social media it's a double-edged sword, you know, like it can be the end of you, but it can also be something that helps elevate you to make a real impact.
Well, it's a tool at the end of the day, and I think we understand that at Turning Point USA. We're creating content every single day, trying to win America's culture war, trying to get the truth out there when traditional media sources have made it their life's mission to get rid of the truth in every aspect possible. And I think it is really interesting with this case moving forward. We've always had somewhat of a national fascination with missing persons cases, with very specific homicide cases like this one.
Why
all
do we
throughout
think
my
Serial
lifetime.
takes off on Apple Podcasts so much?
Exactly. True crime podcasts are such a big deal. Alex Clark is weirdly obsessed with them, and she always tells me about it at work all day long.
POPlitics coming up later.
But really, for the first time in American history, social media users and independent journalists, people on their own, took it upon themselves to be a part of this case, to go find the missing link, to look for the clues. And it was, I believe, other travel vloggers and other people with van life videos finding some of this
stuff. And they just had altruistic intentions. They didn't want any fame or any claim. They were just saying, hey, I'm here to help. What can I do? And I saw this. I'm going to let the authorities know. And that's what someone like Joy Reid should have focused on, the good in America, the good that people can do, and the good that social media can do. Of course, we already know she didn't do that.
But if she says that, of course, she's not going to get the views. She's not going to have these viral videos on social media at all.
I think that's what she's doing now. I think she's just going as far left as she can, as humanly possible, because she knows that hate is selling.
That's
if
an
it bleeds,
interesting
it leads.
thought, Erin. I hadn't thought about that.
I think this is purposeful. At this point, she's just purposefully.
Well, it's
she
just
must
one crazy thing after another, like
because she's
literally
starting
every
to see a
single
spike
day.
in the ratings. She's starting to see what works, and if it bleeds, it leads. There you go.
And finally, it's about a minute left. I mean, saying missing white woman syndrome, that's like racist within itself.
It is. It's absolutely racist within itself, but that's what the left is so focused on. They don't want to view you as John Root or Aaron Elmore or as Aaron Watson. They don't want to focus on individuality in our society. They want to see you as what your identity is and what groups you belong to, because that's the easiest way to loop people into a massive group and convince them of things en masse, whatever that looks like, political indoctrination 101.
And take away their individuality. So when you don't have an individuality, you're easier to manipulate.
And I think that's luckily we have a show like this so we can talk about the goodness of people out there trying to make a difference, sharing this stuff on social media because we want justice. Yeah. And that's what we crave so much. We're coming up next. The immigration crisis at the border is out of control. We're going to talk about how some pilots and ICE officers got assaulted by Haiti refugees and so much more. See you soon.
Lipstick is red, woke faces turn blue, cinnamon rolls are queens, I've got pop culture for you. All the juicy, wormy, newsworthy 411 is coming to you every single day on POPlitics at its new home, TPUSA Live. It's like Barbie's dream house, but bigger and pinker.
This is your brain. This is your brain on socialism. Any questions?
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Aaron Elmore, Isabel Brown, Anthony Watson. So obviously, the immigration crisis in Del Rio, Texas is out of control. Yeah. We've been covering that extensively here on TPUSA Live, but a big problem we have is the mixed messaging we're getting from leadership. So we're going to show you a video now of what President Biden has to say about what's going on at the border.
President, what's your reaction to the images coming from the southern border? Get it under control. Get it under control, or you have it under control? We will get it under control.
Get it under control.
I hope so. Sounds great to me, but I highly
Dork
doubt
101 for we've lost control. Because to get something under control means that it's spilling out of control. But they won't ever say it, because to do that, they actually have to admit that they've made a boo-boo.
This is more than a boo-boo, because what happened to our Remain in Mexico policy? You know, that was the thing that former President Trump did that worked to stop some of the border flow? What happened to all that?
Well, the good news is our court system says it's staying. It's not going anywhere, despite the Biden administration trying to get rid of it. But we're not really seeing it being enforced.
I think it's too little too late to a certain degree. So many people have already come to the border and gotten through. And my question is, so many people out there feel helpless. They watch this on TV and they read about it and they look on social media. What can we do to help? What is there that we can do as a solution? Because you feel so hopeless when you see this.
And depending on who you're listening to, so you hear the President of the United States say, we'll get it under control. So just like you said, Anthony, that goes to show that this is out of control. And then you also have Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas come out and say, well, it's just a heartbreaking situation and it's a tremendous challenge. So you're hearing from certain people, they're trying to downplay it, and then you have the President of the United States saying, well, this is out of control, basically.
You know, it's so ironic to me that the left goes out of their way to say words matter, but they refuse to use the appropriate words when actually talking about what's happening right in front of their face. Make no mistake about this. Them avoiding the word crisis is very intentional. And there's a lot of people in communications there in Washington, D.C. avoiding our leadership from using the word crisis. They probably would have avoided having the president say anything like that to the press at the UN this week because they refuse to admit that this is even happening. How ironic that they're so focused on trying to tell you the truth, to unite the country, to always know that words matter. Silence is violence, but they're completely silent on this issue where it really counts, not just for the people seeking asylum here in the United States and the devastating conditions that many of these people are living in through no fault of their own, through the cartels, through violence if they were trafficked there, but also the 330 million American citizens who are directly risking their safety and security by allowing our border to continue sitting this way.
It's truly such a tragedy, but as you said, the communications perspective is very important. But what are we going to do now as Americans? These people are coming here. They have no place to go. They haven't been tested for COVID. We don't know.
Or other things. Apparently there's measles situations happening right now in Del
hepatitis
Rio.
and things of that nature. And then what are we going to do? Then these people are coming into our communities. And it's very, very dangerous. And that's why I think so many people in America, that we are being forced, whether we're doctors or in the military or students, we are being forced to get vaccinated or lose our jobs. Yet these people can break the law. You are breaking the law by coming here illegally. You have broken the law. But you have special privileges. You don't need to get vaccinated. You don't need to get a COVID test. You don't need to wear a mask. What does that tell the rest of us? That COVID must not be that bad, or you don't care about us. The people that fight our wars, pay our taxes, do the right thing, don't matter.
I don't even think there is an or. I mean, they don't care about us. Bottom line, they're not interested in protecting the American citizens that they were elected to serve, none whatsoever. They are more focused on the political optics of allowing everybody to come here completely unchecked, no process of determining background checks for these people, no understanding on if they've maybe received asylum in other countries. We're hearing now many of these Haitian asylum seekers actually have received refugee status in Chile and Brazil, and they just want to come to the United States anyway, even after being accepted as a refugee somewhere else. We're not interested in understanding the why of people coming here. Instead, we're completely fine with letting whoever walk across our southern border into the United States on taxpayer dollars dime. We're interested in having them bring illegal firearms and other weapons into this country, drugs to a degree that we cannot even fathom that would directly harm American citizens, intentionally or otherwise. This is ridiculous. They're not interested in serving the American people. They're not interested in protecting you. And to your point, Aaron, they don't care.
Well, you talk about what do we do? So we need our elected leaders to step up. So going back to Secretary Mayorkas, he got grilled by Senator Ron Johnson and also Representative Carlos Jimenez of Florida, basically saying how many have been returned, how many have been detained, and how many have been dispersed. So he talked about that at the Governmental Affairs Committee meeting, and he had no answer whatsoever. Of course, he said, I don't have that data. And then when you have Representative Jimenez say, here's the same question, what's the data? How many people have been returned? How many people have been detained? And how many people have been dispersed? And he comes back and says, well, I don't have that data now. I've been working 18 hours a day. Like, what do you want? People to feel bad for you?
Doing what?
You're not the only person working here. We were talking about that. You are not the only person that we look to.
He's the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. There are literally hundreds of people who work directly for him, whose job it is to find out the data and have the numbers. And by the way, understanding this crisis and dealing with it and leading us out of it is quite literally your job description. What are you doing 18 hours a day if you're not handling this appropriately?
Netflix, and then checking
emails.
And then
finally,
all
that kind of stuff that big government officials do when they have 20 people to do a job.
And we mentioned too, like this is putting people in just dire situations. So you have pilots that now need to take these illegal immigrants back to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And we just heard about 3 pilots that got attacked. They got assaulted when those, they said that there was single males that were assaulting pilots of that plane who work for a governmental contractor licensed to fly deportation flights for immigration and customs enforcement while families were on board as well. And then we also heard about some ICE officers that got assaulted as well. So this is a crisis and it's putting people in terrible situations and people are getting hurt.
I think the biggest problem that we face right now is in the past, 2 years, we've had no accountability for any of the riots, no accountability in the rise in crimes, no answers to any of the violence that you see that a lot of people choose to ignore. And a strong United States actually makes other countries stronger when they look at the stance that we take. So when other people, even though they have asylum in all those other countries, for the past year when they've been watching from a distance that nobody punishes criminals, everybody gives a free pass to immigrants, illegal, and I'm the son of an immigrant who came here legally.
And I have to cut you off real quick. Coming up next, what in the world? We'll see you soon.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
Do you miss the good old days when sports were just about the game? If you want to go back to sports being unifying again, tune in every week where we'll expose and discuss how the left is ruining sports. My name is John Root, and this is Breakaway.
Do you like guns? Do you like ammo? Do you like suppressors? Do you like freedom? Do you love America? Do you like baseball? Do you like rifles? Do you like 9mm? Do you like pistols? Join me, Paige Rue, every week on Reloaded.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. What I was trying to say before the break was we got What in the World Wednesday, a brand new installment coming up next, but I had to cut you off, Anthony Watson.
It's totally
sorry.
fine. I'm
Please
used to it in
finish that
America.
thought, and then we will get into some of the wackiest stuff we've had on the internet. Anthony, please.
What was I saying, John? Before I was
Immigration.
Oh yeah, we were talking about immigration. I was simply just alluding to the fact that with everything that you see happening at the border, it's because there's been no accountability leading up to that. You know, you have a lot of people that you see it everywhere. The viral videos of people literally going into department stores and just loading up trash bags of stuff and just walking out, you know, because nobody's enforcing anything. And when people see that, it's obviously a ticket into something that they want, even if they do have asylum someplace else. So I think that was where I was going to finish.
Well, you were saying that your dad came here as a legal immigrant.
Yeah, both of my parents. My mother, before Puerto Rico was a USA territory, her family immigrated here. My dad immigrated from Jamaica. The process was long because there was a process that we followed, you know, but now it's literally a free-for-all, as, you know, whoever can make it in makes it in, you know, at the expense of us paying for it. And, you know, like, none of us have any issue with anyone that wants to come here. We enjoy living here. You know, we're proud of our country, but we want it to stay a country so that everyone can enjoy it the same way. That's all.
Yeah, and there's a right way to do it. But we know what's going on at the border is totally out of control, and what's happening online at times is really
always out of control.
We see some weird stuff. Obviously, we get a lot of great content from Libs of TikTok, which could potentially be the greatest social media.
It might be my
there.
favorite Instagram account of all time.
Thank God it's not on TikTok, because I won't go on that.
It's so, well, it pulls videos from TikTok.
But, okay,
of the
so
crazy
Libs
leftists.
of TikTok.
Libs of TikTok.
Am I going to be happy or sad about this?
I was like, do I actually
You might
have to
be a
download
little
TikTok?
sad.
You might be a
You
little
might lose
weirded
faith
out.
in
But you guys
humanity
have
a
heard the
little
phrase, Yas Queen.
Can you do that again? Do it again.
Yas Queen.
Yas Queen.
Yas Queen.
Do not make me say it a third time, but you've heard that.
You did a good job.
That's a pretty good job.
Check out this video.
Someone shared with me some gender-neutral replacements for Yas Queen, and I wanted to share them with you. Get it, Your Majesty! Go off, Your Eminence! Send it, Your Highness! Pop off, my liege! Pop off! Snap, Your Excellence!
Send it, Your Highness.
So you have something to say about this? I feel like you had something to say.
I apologize for my Aunt Shaquita. I didn't know she knew how to use
about
TikTok.
that TikTok. She's been going off.
I didn't know.
Send it, Your Majesty.
So forgive me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this term originally from the drag queen community?
Yas Queen.
About not really adhering to gender stereotypes, about mixing up.
I think queen was meant to be anyone.
I never thought this had to do with gender, ever. I mean, I don't think anybody ever did.
No. Anyone can be a yes queen.
Kind of
Is there a drag king?
It's a great question, Erin. I don't know.
I don't either.
Maybe we could be the first.
And what's the opposite of yes queen? No king.
No king. Hop
Let's
off.
start that.
Not go
no
for it.
King.
But
This is just dumb.
It is really dumb, but it goes to show that everything's about gender.
And everything's offensive.
course.
So offended that you
Yeah.
said yes, queen, to me. Get off this
I
couch,
can't,
John.
dog.
I can't believe you'd say something like this. And also I can't believe someone would say something like this. So this next video is just out of control when it comes to mass. Check it out.
When you play it on a honky-tonk piano, it is.
Oh, that's called the entertainer.
Entertainer.
We've taken this a hard left. I
Do you think this is real?
I think it's fake. Raise your hand. Fake.
I don't think it's fake. I think it's
Fake.
real.
You
Okay,
think
so
it's real?
the only reason I think it's real is this is oddly reminiscent of me to all of the photos that we saw last school year when some schools were finally letting people come back in marching band, and they were having all of the people who play wind instruments cut little holes just like that in their mask so that they can wear their mask at band practice.
And then wiping their flute on the person next to them. 'Cause it's
as
so
they're
sanitary.
breathing air through a tube as
In
air
which-
comes out the other side.
Yeah.
Very similar.
But
So I think it's real.
So
I
what
think
happens
it's
to
real.
your macaroni and cheese? You get it all over the mask and you're like, nom, 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 and then it's like.
Well, you save
that's
some for
mask
later, of course.
Particles, some mask
Yeah.
fuzz comes
I will
off.
say that is genius engineering as opposed to the whole slip down, chew, and then put it back up.
Please, put the mask up in between bites
I was
and
like,
sips.
they've
I learned-
discovered a new way to do it.
Flying out here, she said, so we got the drink from the flight attendant, took a sip. No, you can't do that until I leave your row.
That's new.
That's new.
That is new.
Oh, we got a new rule that makes no sense.
I would have
Flight attendant, let me know when it's okay. Like, how many rows are you down? Now?
6 feet.
Is it cool? Because the girl next to me, she's sitting like 13. She's like, hi, where are you from? Like, sorry, John.
My goodness.
I think this is real. I really do. But, I want off this planet. If this was
yeah.
where humanity is.
This is my stop.
This is
conductor.
bad. Let
I want
me
off.
I want out at this exit,
And
please.
also-
Jesus, take the wheel.
Please. But unfortunately, too, we see canines and dogs
No.
that are getting thrown into this situation. Check this out.
No.
What's happening?
He has a little mask on his little nose.
I had said it before, but I think any animal rights activist is now not going to complain if they see a dog locked in a car. on a hot summer
I mean,
day.
that's honestly.
I mean,
They're
like, that's
both
just as bad,
terrible.
but it's just like you're cooking the dog, literally a hot dog, sauna suit,
I love
with
hot
a mask
dogs.
on.
Well, didn't you have a joke? What was your joke about this? It was really funny. I hope you think of it.
Oh, you're taking it
I don't
back
know
to
if I
the-
want to say it, but obviously it's not a Labrador, but if it was, it'd be a Wuhan Labrador.
Oh no, John.
There
So
is a lab in Wuhan. There's
sad.
nothing wrong with
Hi,
that.
welcome back to TPUSA Live. I'm John Root with a dumb joke.
They're good jokes.
That was a dad joke. That was a good dad
That's
joke.
very much a dad joke. I'm getting
Where does it
dangerously
end?
close to 30.
Are we going to
so
start
dad jokes are coming.
masking like our geckos and our hamsters?
There's so many
Like
of those
everything
things.
has to be masked now. Or my plant needs a mask so it can breathe safely in the time of COVID.
Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
No, but we have to check out this guy that was trying to get a free ride on a train. What in the world is going on?
Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down!
I love the guy that's just eating that snack there. He just goes,
Just another day."
another day in New York, I guess. And he's thinking, just like, what is this guy doing? Just tell him to get down. You
He
you
did.
have no shoe. You have no shoes now.
Yeah, the guy, that poor guy, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Oh,
Now
man.
he goes home with no shoes, and his wife's
Well
like,
said.
"What happened to your dang shoes?"
But the
The
one
shoes
thing,
that she bought him.
If
most
my
likely.
husband came out with no shoes, I'd be like, "I've got more questions than answers."
the one thing that was really nice, like obviously he's taking advantage and getting a free ride, but he did give him one of his shoes back.
Yeah.
That's the payment. I
Very,
suppose,
very
for
kind
the-
gesture.
Is one
Train
shoe's always
ride.
better than two?
We live in an insane world, ladies and gentlemen. This is crazy. But I'm sure a lot of you are probably tuning into Late Night with Gutfeld more than you're tuning into Late Night with these people. Look what's going on. So,
Climate night.
yep, we got
How'd they get there, on their bicycles?
Something tells me this is not going to be funny. I mean, just
No.
a thought. I think it's going to suck.
And randomly last night I decided that I'm just gonna watch some late night television. So I tuned into Jimmy Fallon. I feel like Jimmy Fallon is usually like pretty quirky and entertaining, and then right after he had Seth Meyers, and he still has no one in the audience.
Really?
So
They're
he's
in
doing,
California, right? Or they're in New York?
they're in New
Either
York
or.
still.
Either
Computer
or.
Pick your
generated
poison.
applause and
Yeah.
Although I
laughter.
think there's exceptions right after the Emmys. Now
Oh,
there's
yeah.
exceptions for live performances, so maybe they could have.
Celebrities are
people
better than us. They get to be in person and hang out in beautiful clothes
Must
with no
be
masks.
nice.
But this goes to show that there is propaganda being thrown at us in late night television. There's a reason why people are tuning out. Obviously, we talked about go woke, go broke. There's a reason people aren't watching sports anymore, and they're not tuning into late night, and that's why Gutfeld, that you've been on,
Yes, I have.
is really taking off.
It has to. It's like the #1 show in late night, right? But not to make a hard left, but on the same topic, I was watching a cartoon with my 8-year-old son, and they were talking about climate change, like scaring my kid about the climate. And I swear to God, as a mother, my blood pressure got so high. They said, I skipped school to protest for the environment. I'm like, I pay a lot of money for that school. Don't you
What
dare take
cartoon was this?
It was, I can't remember if it was Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, but they were saying, climate change is real. You should skip school and protest. I was like, do not skip that school. I pay very hard, but this is an 8-year-old, and they
Yep.
showed this commercial over and over and over. So my son can tell you all about climate change.
Well, they're going to be speaking to an echo chamber with this climate night comedy situation. So if they think they're going to be changing any minds, I highly doubt they'll be effective in that endeavor, and it probably won't be funny at all.
Do you think they told President Xi in China to stop
Maybe he'll tune in.
basically
Yeah.
the biggest polluter of the world?
Maybe that's why it's funny. Maybe they'll never call out the people who actually contribute to climate change.
And they all probably got
And
there
then
in
they
a
all
private
sit
jet.
back.
No big deal.
Yeah.
And almost as insane as some of that content that we just showed you, that's going to be coming out on Wednesdays every time. It's always one of my favorite segments, but we have some craziness going on university campuses around the country, and we have a brand new member of the Professor Watch List. You can't miss this. See you in a few.
You have to ask the question, how is the most heavily funded tribe have the poorest population?
Listen to me. My country is very because everything problem here. Don't have petroleum for bus and Cuban, for car, for life, for nothing.
And it sucks. Socialism sucks. There's no other way you can describe it.
Conservative students are considered threats to American universities, but they won't stand down any longer. Join me, Isabel Brown, every week as I meet the bold student warriors who are fearlessly fighting to stop their leftist professors and peers from destroying their campuses. This is On the Frontlines with Turning Point USA.
What's up, guys? My name is John Root, and every week I'm breaking down the top stories in sports and bringing you conversations you won't hear anywhere else. It's gonna be a great time. You're Unbreakable.
TPUSA Live is about to be spicy. I mean, would you expect anything less? It's me, Alex Clark. Of course it's gonna be spicy. Tune into The Spillover, my brand new podcast. Think of it like the older sister to POPlitics with a lot more conservative. Big dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big Corvette.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got TPUSA contributor Aaron Elmore, TPUSA contributor and On the Frontlines host that you can tune into right after this.
So exciting.
And we got TPUSA ambassador. We got Anthony Watson. Welcome back.
Thank you.
With the necklace, the Olympics.
Yeah. But we got to tell you, we got to tell you about the newest member of our professor watch list. So we got Jen Jackson, assistant professor of political science and a senior research associate at the Campbell Public Affairs Institute at Syracuse University. So her research and teachings are focused on, get this, Black politics, gender and sexuality, political behavior, public opinion, and mixed methods. Why did she make the list? I'm going to tell you right here, right now. Here's what she had to say about the George Floyd protests. Here's what she tweeted out. So she said this right here: the goodness of cops is unimportant. They are employed in an institution meant to eradicate blackness. The philosophical principles of being a police officer are racist and anti-black. They are required to do terrible things.
Tell that to my black cousins who are police officers. I don't know, just a thought.
I think Planned Parenthood was designed to eradicate blackness. Why don't we try that one out?
Hey, speaking for black people, I got no comment.
You should. I feel like you have to have a comment.
I have plenty of comments, but I mean, like,
this is why we brought you here, Anthony. Please.
No. We needed the token for today's segment. No, I mean, like, it's all of this stuff literally just comes down to how you're raised.
Yeah.
You know, there's a book that I read when I was in high school called How to Make a Slave. It was literally about a guy named William Lynch, who you get the term lynching from, where he literally taught his slave masters how to manipulate and how to indoctrinate slaves from back then. And he said you literally pit them against each other. He said you pit women against men, young against old, lights against darks, and then he's like, you create discourse amongst that group. Then you have this group, never trust this group, which is why in the ghetto from years back, even till, like, since the abolishment of slavery, you still have people that when you go to the hood and if you and I were walking together, they'd be like, what you doing here, white boy? Or it's like, we can't trust him. It's a generational thing that he specifically said if indoctrinated for 100 days the right way, it will last hundreds, if not thousands of years. Wow. And you still see ramifications of that coming, you know, like in today's, from people that don't even like sit down and have a conversation. It's just based off of your appearance, what they're told to think and feel about you. And so from somebody like that, they clearly have no intentions on trying to bridge the gap. And all of this is to raise awareness to create a solution, but there's still no solution because everyone sees the benefit of reaping some sort of temporary reward for playing victim. And it never works.
And we see like Joy Reid that we spoke about earlier here on TPUSA Live, everything has to be about race. It has to be just, it's a black versus white kind of situation here. We see a situation with a police officer, it's got to be a racial thing, right? That's the only thing they can dumb it down to. It's systemic racism.
Except for COVID, because in New York City where they have the vaccine passports, you have to show your ID and your COVID card to get in any restaurant, any bar, any exercise establishment. And I think only 30% of the black community in New York City is vaccinated. So why isn't that a racial issue? Why aren't we talking about that?
And then
they're literally ostracized from society.
Because all of you white people are hogging the vaccines. That's why you didn't catch the memo.
Well,
trending on Twitter.
Don't put me in
that. Importantly, though, this is not just a person saying something on Twitter. This is literally a professor. They're teaching people on college campuses, and they're saying a bunch of other crazy things too. Because I read up on this particular professor.
And then she was actually defending the riots and the vandalism. So this is what she had to say about that. So she actually said, here's why the language of riot versus protest versus uprising matters. When black Americans and other marginalized groups respond to white supremacist violence, they're often labeled rioters to undermine the true reasons where they're justifiably demanding accountability. This is another talking point about they're just letting off some steam, let them do it. Those small businesses, they got insurance, right? You heard those talking points.
For bad
it's
behavior. We're excusing illegality and bad behavior.
No, we're not even excusing it. We're celebrating it. We're saying that that's the way to demand accountability and change our society as we know it. These ideas that we've seen permeate every aspect of our culture in America in the last year or so all originate from college campuses because they graduated with the students that have been indoctrinated by people like this wacko to believe that we have to burn our society to the ground, literally, I'm not using that as a figurative term, in order to make a path to whatever's next. And obviously it's Marxism and socialism. That's what we're seeing upheld by groups like Antifa and BLM Inc. But it all comes back to people like this who are given a platform, not just online, literally on platforms, but in front of the next generation of thinkers who are going to go out and be businessmen and congressmen and entrepreneurs. That's how we change our society one person at a time.
Well, there's no foundation in that kind of argument anymore either, because you remember back in the day when leftists wouldn't say anything about the riot. It was just protests, they're peaceful, that kind of thing. And then January 6th happened when people got fed up. And then, because everyone's just like, oh, it's different, but I'm just like, no. I was like, I heard Jerry Nadler call protest when people were burning things up, like, oh, it's just peaceful protest. But then he was quick to be like, the rioters of the insurrection. I'm just like, so you can say it. I was like, it can't. I was like, you can say those words.
And also too, it didn't stop here. It wasn't just about the George Floyd situation and cops, and it wasn't just about what we're talking about here, just racially driven things. Now she had something to say about 9/11. Here's another tweet that this professor threw out there. So saying, it's been 20 years since 9/11, and I'm still really disturbed by how many white pundits and correspondents talk about it.
That's disgusting.
I'm a wife of a 9/11 survivor, and this is shameful and hurtful to someone who was looking for bodies, having to call families and say, I'm so sorry about your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife. This is shameful because it happened and it was real and it was a tragedy. People should be allowed to talk about terrible tragedies in our country for the rest of their lives, anytime. There's no acceptable time to say this is no longer relevant, because it is relevant and it is important. She's just trying to excuse, again, and celebrate bad behavior.
Well, I'm not a white pundit, but, you know, as somebody who loves my country, you know, like I do see it's wrong for the main reason that a lot of people that went through that and the security reasons that we go through now to make sure it doesn't happen again, and the fighting that we go through a lot, is to give people the right to complain and do everything they're doing, you know, within reason. But now they're trying to rewrite everything as like, oh, well, you know, we can't take that at face value. This is the real interpretation of it and such. And so, I mean, like, nobody will ever forget that because it traumatized everybody.
Yeah. And then a huge shout out to our Professor Watch List team. You can find out some more professors that we're trying to expose how they're indoctrinating our students at professorwatchlist.org. Coming up next, we got one last thing. This might be the worst first pitch I've ever seen. You're going to see the video next. See you soon.
like guns? Do you like ammo? Do you like suppressors? Do you like freedom? Do you love America? Do you like baseball? Do you like rifles? Do you like 9mm? Do you like pistols? Join me, Paige Rue, every week on Reloaded.
We are in a culture war for the future of America, and so far the left has been winning. But I've got good news for you. Conservative students are fighting back. Join me, Isabel Brown, every week as we meet the compelling student activists changing the future of our country. Thanks to Turning Point USA, we are on the front lines.
What's up, guys? My name is John Root, and every week I'm breaking down the top stories in sports and bringing you conversations you won't hear anywhere else. It's going to be a great time here on Breaking.
You have to ask the question, how is the most heavily funded tribe have the poorest population?
Listen to me. My country's very because everything problem here. Don't have petroleum for bus and Cuban, for car, for life, for nothing.
And it sucks. Socialism sucks. There's no other way you can describe it.
This is your brain. This is your brain on socialism. Any questions?
Lipstick is red, woke faces turn blue, cinnamon rolls are queens, I've got pop culture for you. All the juicy, wormy, newsworthy 411 is coming to you every single day on POPlitics at its new home, TPUSA Live. It's like Barbie's dream house, but bigger and pinker.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Aaron Elmore, Isabel Brown, Anthony Watson. One last thing. I can't believe the show's almost over, but we're going to finish strong with this one.
Well, at least we are. Is it strong though? I mean,
it's hilarious. Like, this may be the worst first pitch you ever see in your entire life. You've heard of Conor McGregor. He's okay in the octagon now, but I don't think he's going to have a baseball career. So we're going to show this video from the Chicago Cubs game. He was at Wrigley Field, and this is what happened when he took the mound.
Wowzer.
Yeah, that's tough. Like, we've seen some really, really bad first pitches.
It's still a toss-up between him and Fauci.
No, I mean, 50 cents in there,
Fauci went that away.
Well, also, it's Dr. Fauci. I mean,
Yeah.
does anybody really want to see him throw the first pitch in a baseball game ever?
A lot of liberals
Probably
do.
not.
A lot of liberals
Yeah,
do.
maybe.
They really love him.
I still will say, like, probably the worst is now Conor McGregor, and then we got 50 Cent, and then real close right there, we got Dr. Fauci.
Do
That's
any of you
my
guys
three
know who
worst.
Baba Booey is? From the Howard Stern show. He threw one once, and it was like
Basically
juggling.
went backwards.
Yeah. These
Well,
are all
don't get me
the ads.
wrong.
Like
He's
juggling.
probably a pretty
I guess
athletic
it's like
guy.
a common
Maybe
thought.
he just
Fauci
doesn't
was
throw a
terrible,
baseball
50
very
Cent was
often. I don't
terrible,
know.
Obama's was terrible.
Yeah,
true.
Trump's was good. President
was
Trump's
amazing.
Right
President Donald
on the
Trump's
money.
was
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
You know that.
But-
Like, call me crazy. I'm no genius, but like, wouldn't you air quotes practice if you had something like this to do?
You told me to call you crazy, so you're crazy.
Perhaps.
Think about
I
practicing before the
would.
first pitch. That's nuts. Why would you ever do that?
All right, John, we'll see you throw a first pitch, John, and see if it
Arizona
looks like
Diamondbacks. I'm in the area. I'd be happy to throw out the first pitch anytime. Man, I really hope it was.
Seriously, in the comment section right now, please tell us if you think John's first pitch will be better than Conor McGregor's, because we have to know.
What is the process of even getting selected for a first
You have to
pitch?
be famous, which obviously John Root is. Don't we know people in baseball? We know Aubrey Huff. He's a fan. He can
There
get
you
hooked
go.
up,
There
maybe.
you go.
Well, I don't know how he'd get a hold of him online anymore.
True,
So he's
he
not
doesn't
on
yeah.
Instagram or Twitter
exist,
anymore, but maybe
apparently.
he's got some
That
contacts.
We gotta use
beautiful
our
thing called
connections here.
a cell phone. Maybe he's got
Actually,
some
I can maybe
numbers
get
or
you
an
an
email.
But
I have an
also-
idea. I'm going to work on this.
All right. I'm going to hold you
Please
to
do.
it.
I've got
But also,
homework.
we know that Conor McGregor is not good at throwing a football either. So this was him in 2018 at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium.
Give me an idea what you think of his arm ability.
That is not a strength. That is not exactly. A strength. You know, the grip is going to be something we'd work on. But I can tell you, based.
Maybe he's just one of those people that has his sport. You know, he's really good at what he does, and that's about it. But that's okay. That's all you really need at the end of the day.
The wise words of Connor. We're not just here to take part. We're here to take over.
Ooh, that was good.
For me, someone that's played football too, the guy doesn't even grab the laces.
I know, that was just... Didn't we learn that from that movie,
that was weird.
Ace Ventura, something about the laces?
Pet Detective. Yeah.
Ace
yeah.
Ventura,
So laces
Pet
out,
Detective.
Dan. You got to grab the laces.
Grab the laces. That's what I always say.
But coming up next, before we tell you about that, thank you so much for being here. Aaron
Thanks for
Elmore,
having
Isabel
me.
Brown, Anthony Watson. We had a great show today. But coming up next, Isabel Brown. You got On the Front Lines. And that is followed by MAGA Hulk Stephen Davis absolutely destroying the leftist agenda. I can't wait for that. And thank you once again for coming on the show. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Woo!
Example of failed socialism, go to an Indian reservation.
A lot of the soldiers were very aggressive, so the women did get raped.
Muerte means a place of suffering, dying, starvation, nothing good.
I didn't realize how corrupt things were. I didn't realize what kind of environment we were living in.
We had no running water, we had no power.
They de-incentivize people from, opportunity.
That's why our suicide rate has climbed up astronomical rates. I think that's what I'm also projecting to my people, even if I have to fight you to save you.
Conservatives! POPlitics is now on TPUSA Live. It'll be here every day in case you want to hear me out along with the rest of the Turning Point USA team. Don't miss out on all the conservative.
The year is 2040. We're officially on day 7,300 of 15 days to slow the spread. Masks have been permanently glued to our faces. You wear them when you sleep, when you shower, when you kiss someone. We've all received 30 doses of the vaccine, and people are so afraid to step outside their homes, we've become albinos from lack of sun exposure. We've graduated from 6 feet apart to half a mile of social distancing. I'm joking, of course, kind of, because the world has actually lost lost its mind. In the time of COVID-19, perhaps no one has been more intensely affected by tyrannical policies than students. Vaccine and mask mandates, social distancing requirements, and a transition to online learning have perhaps forever changed American education. In this episode of On the Frontlines, we're covering the craziest COVID insanity our nation's high school and college students are exposed to. See what I did there? We'll sit down with Olivia Sander, who recently made national news over the vaccine mandate at BYU Hawaii, and meet a school board member who thinks unmasked students are murderers. All this and more. I'm Isabel Brown, and this is On the Frontlines.
On campus, the left tries to silence us.
There's a lot of liberal indoctrination.
Universities don't stand for objective truth.
Insulting us, threatening us.
We are on the front lines.
Hi, my name is Olivia Sandor. I am 18 years old and I'm from Queen Creek, Arizona. I grew up in a family that really valued our morals, who you are as an individual, and standing up for what you believe in. I was so excited to attend BYU Hawaii this fall until the COVID-19 vaccine came in and changed all of my plans. I'm Olivia Sandor and this is On the Frontline.
Please welcome to the show, Olivia Sandor. Olivia, thank you so much for being with us here today. We are so excited to tell your story. So as we know, you were enrolled to attend BYU Hawaii. What made that your dream school?
Well, BYU Hawaii had always been a dream of mine because I grew up hearing about it. I'm the youngest of all of my cousins, and so when I found out that they had gone and loved their experience, I was like, that's what I want to do, and it's so exciting. And I have extended family members that actually live out in Hawaii, and when I got accepted, I was so excited.
When you were a teenager, you were diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Yes.
For those that don't know what that is, can you walk us through what that diagnosis was like?
So I became really weak. I had been sick with the flu. I had also gotten a flu vaccine before that. And my body had just started like aching and it was hurting, and I would walk and my knees would give out. And it ended up that I became paralyzed from the waist down for an extended period of time, and that was extremely difficult to go through. I was a sophomore in high school. I had all my friends. Dance was like my life at the time. So I never thought I'd be able to dance again. I never thought I'd be able to walk again, and that was so scary. Having Guillain-Barré is not something that you want to mess with again, or that you want to take a chance with or a risk on. And it's not a game of Russian roulette where you're like, oh, I just hope that nothing happens.
So for those diagnosed with this very rare disease in the United States, you can never be vaccinated again, really, if you want to play it safe. Is that correct? Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I would say that it's a choice. And the odds of you having a relapse of Guillain-Barré are there. So if you want to take that chance and you want to risk that, then that's your own personal choice. And I would say good for you. However, I would not, my doctors and all the medical professionals I've spoken to about my own health have strongly discouraged me getting vaccinated because of the negative effect that it already had on me, and especially because I don't want to go through the same thing again.
Exactly. Because of all the COVID restrictions in the state of Hawaii, BYU Hawaii announced, I believe it was the day after your 18th birthday, that they were going to be mandating the COVID experimental vaccine to come back to campus this fall. What was it like finding out that they were going to mandate such an experimental vaccine?
I was just confused. I was like, how? I don't know. We never thought that COVID would come to this, right? We're like, oh, it'll be over soon when it all started. And here we are a year later, and things have only gotten worse, it feels. And so I was concerned, but they announced that they would be giving medical exemptions, and I was like, perfect. I'll get together with my board of these medical providers, and we'll figure it out, and I'll be fine. I'll still be able to go. I'll still be able to have that dream of mine. And I got together with them, and we wrote out an exemption form, and I sent it off, and I waited 3 weeks to hear back from them with nothing in between, like no communication at all. I was so nervous, and I was like, I'm about to move to Hawaii, leave my family, like everything. And 3 weeks later, I hear back, and they denied me a medical exemption. And I was appalled. My parents and my family were like, what? How can you do that? If I'm not getting a medical exemption, who's going to? And studies have shown that vaccines the COVID vaccine for people with GBS can be dangerous, but I've also had people say, oh, well, you just need to get an mRNA vaccine. It's like, you don't know what that could do to me, and it's not a risk that I'm willing to take. Paralysis can spread and kill people, you know what I mean? And so it just was not something I wanted to do. So my family and I appealed that response from BYU Hawaii, and we reached out to them, and my dad sent them emails, I sent them emails, and we got in touch with the president of BYU Hawaii, and he said that he'd bring it back to their medical professionals that were like reviewing all the cases. And again, they denied me a medical exemption. And so come to find out, everyone that I've talked to that has submitted a medical or religious exemption has been denied. Not a
At a religious school?
At a religious school. Not a
Wow.
single one.
How did that feel to have to let go of that dream, knowing you personally weren't comfortable getting the COVID-19 vaccine? It was advised that you don't get that from your physicians and your medical team. Was it hard to let go of something that you'd wanted for so long?
I cried for a few days. Like, it was so hard. I gave up all other scholarships to schools to be able to go to BYU Hawaii, and so it just felt really down for a while. And then I chose to try and have a different outlook, and I talked to my family, my friends about it. I made my post on Instagram about how I wasn't going anymore, but I knew that the Lord had a different plan for me. And that's when that blew up, and everything's happened since.
That's how I found out about your story, was your post on Instagram that generated a lot of attention. I personally was very disappointed to see the response from BYU Hawaii saying they were sticking with their mandate, that's just the way it was, even though there had been some social media activity from people calling attention to it. In terms of after the exemption was denied, you appealed it, it was denied again.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that one Instagram post, how did you decide to fight back and draw awareness to what was happening?
Well, I definitely didn't expect to get the response that I did, and that was crazy. I posted it like right before I went to bed, and I woke up, and it had like 5,000 likes or something, and I had maybe 1,000 followers at the time, and I was like, what? Like, that makes no sense. So then it kept going, and I was like, wow, there are so many people that DM'd me, reached out to me, commented, that were like, this is exactly what I needed to hear, because my school is doing the same thing. So it was really interesting to see how it all unfolded, but I was so grateful for the opportunity to share my story and give other students that hope that they didn't have to go with these medical things that are happening. Like, no one has to get vaccinated if you don't feel comfortable with it. And so to give other students that voice was super awesome.
You have remained incredibly positive and calm throughout this process. What do you think gives you the foundation to stay so steadfast in the face of constantly changing circumstances and that hate from people online?
I'd say my faith. My faith has just been that rock, that foundation for me to rely upon, because with all the hate or with anything, I can turn to my Heavenly Father and feel that peace and feel that everything's going to work out the way that it's supposed to. And I definitely think that it's all in His bigger plan for me.
As we head into this back to school season and most students are returning to campus, there are thousands of other students across the country dealing with exactly the same mandates that you faced with your campus experience at BYU Hawaii, many of whom are probably offered exemptions, as you mentioned, but they're never granted an exemption religiously or medically or otherwise. If you could say anything to other students facing that same problematic decision, do I get vaccinated, am I comfortable with that, or do I stay steadfast to what I'm believing in and what my values are, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that they need to do what's best for them, and they need to stick up for themselves, because no one should have to form or comply to this vaccine if they're not comfortable with it. And they need to know that it's okay to be different from the media or from all these people telling them that they have to get vaccinated. There are so many other options, and they should not have to comply to that or have to like form to that if that's not what they're comfortable with. And I know colleges and people can say whatever they want or mandate how they feel necessary, but for you yourself, there are other options, and I think it's important that you stay true to yourself and you hold your own and your ground. And I think if enough people talk out about them not feeling comfortable with that, colleges aren't going to have the opportunity to mandate something if everyone doesn't want it, you know what I mean? So stay true to yourself.
You are no longer hopping on a plane to Hawaii this fall, so what is next for you in your journey, and what's ahead for you on the road ahead?
So I was actually supposed to leave tomorrow, so that's kind of exciting to have this different road ahead of me, but I am headed to Utah, and I am so excited. I'm just going to be doing school online and living with one of my best friends, so that'll be so fun, and I'll make a lot of friends. And I work up there. I worked there over the summer. I'm a nanny, so I get to spend time with little kids, and I could not be happier. I'm so excited. And I'm also an ambassador for Turning Point now, which is such an exciting journey ahead, and it will give me lots of opportunities to stay connected, so I'm excited.
Olivia, we are so proud of you for using your voice here at Turning Point USA. We could not be more excited that you're part of our ambassador family now. I know this is just the beginning for you, even though plans change, and you've just been such an inspiration to so many students across the country. So thank you for using your voice in all the ways that you have and for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Coming up next, the COVID restrictions go to college and get a degree in insanity. Don't go anywhere. This is On the Frontlines. Coronavirus has changed our culture and education forevermore, from mask and vaccine mandates to social distancing on campus. Students around the country have been forced to change their motto of question everything and make your own decisions to do as you're told if it means saving lives. Today, we're headed to the University of Maryland, Cal Berkeley, the University of Minnesota, Harvard, and the rest of the Ivy League to understand just how strong COVID's impact is on college campuses. It's time for your State of Campus. Nothing says excellence in education like getting rid of true education altogether, which is exactly what's happening at the University of Maryland when they decided last semester to offer a pass-fail option to all students for up to 7 course credits. A pass is a C- in any course, and you can choose this option for up to half of your classes in a full-time course load. If I could pass-fail the majority of my classes, would I even try to work hard in my studies? Not even the smart nerds like me would want to strive for success if at the end of the semester it comes around and you have the option to say, meh, a C is a pass. I don't need to try any harder. I can't imagine the future of GPAs. It's not surprising that they're changing the grade system for this new normal, though. Who would have thought that having college students lay in bed while staring at a screen for 8 hours a day and virtually participating in class doesn't help their academic prowess? Every college student knows this, but somehow not the colleges themselves. We've now accepted a lower threshold for success on college campuses. And let's just be honest here, we've also lowered the standard of education to basically WALL-E brought to life, staring mindlessly into the void of Zoom for hours on end without learning anything of substance. And if you thought virtual school was bad, just wait until we have to do everything like that, from grocery shopping to hanging out with friends. Oh, wait, that's already happening. Ever wonder what it'd be like to be in prison? If you're a student at the University of California, Berkeley, you may no longer have to. And for the record, I'm not talking about the Dementors of Azkaban sucking out your soul, aka Berkeley professors taking away any freedom of thought. In February, Berkeley mandated a self-sequester period for all on-campus residents. What does that mean? Turns out, literally prison. A memo from the university said, you are required to remain in your room as much as possible and wear a face covering while in all common areas, including bathrooms, unless brushing your teeth, washing your face, showering, etc. And further specified, you were not allowed to leave your room for solo outdoor exercise or go to the store. On top of all of that insanity, Berkeley students were also encouraged to rat out their peers by alerting campus authorities if anyone violated these mandates. I know Berkeley is already known as the most leftist university in America, but geez, I didn't realize their campus is now considered a communist nation. Don't just teach the evils of communism. Just literally show students how it works. Convince them it's the only way, and then let them turn on one another. What a brilliant plan! This is one of the most haunting aspects of COVID regulations, all of the forced isolation. Not only are young people being forced to stay inside, alone, during what should be the most social time in their lives, but they're also manipulated into thinking that their friends could be some sort of enemy, all in the name of safety. Over in Oklahoma, more young people are being coerced to believe that their peers are murderers. Yeah, you heard that right. Stick around for the full story coming up on this week's special School Board Watch List. This is On the Frontlines. Alongside our Professor Watch List, Turning Point USA recently launched our School Board Watch List to identify school board members who are abusing their power to institute leftism in America's public schools. This year in Norman, Oklahoma, a member of the Norman School Board, Linda Sexton, pushed back against the governor's law banning mask mandates in public schools in the state. It's Linda's belief that unmasked young students are committing murder against one another by transmitting COVID-19. She actually said during a school board meeting, it's just not okay for kids to commit murder by coming to school without a mask. Forget every other danger a child faces on a day-to-day basis. The real threat is the maskless child sitting right next to them, breathing air, sharing school supplies, and God forbid, even forming new thoughts. Not only do so many of today's school boards fear children breathing in fresh air, but they're clearly afraid these kids will show any bit of their individualism. Indoctrination is everywhere. Now, school board members are just as bad as the college professors. So get in on the action and fight for your kids' rights. Linda Sexton, you're on our list. And all you other school board members out there, keep it up, and you just might make our school board watch list. Remember when the internet melted down over China virus and Kung flu? Even the insinuation that COVID-19 originated from China has led to accusations of xenophobia and racism, and it's no different on campus. The University of Minnesota's Bias Response and Referral Network asked students to identify examples of bias related to COVID-19. And it wasn't long before students found a factual reference to the origin of the virus in China on the website for the School of Public Health. I have a master's degree focusing on public health, so this may sound crazy, but wouldn't it be the job of this department to highlight the origin of any pandemic? After a complaint was formally filed with the university, the school's website removed any mention of China with regard to the origins of the virus. Now, why would they do that? It's not like there's been a lab leak theory since the beginning of the pandemic, and China won't open up about its origin. Also, I don't know how many times we have to explain this, but distrusting the government does not mean that we distrust or hate the people. Saying that the Chinese communist government is bad isn't xenophobic, it's the truth. People are treated how they personally are, not how their government is. They're completely separate things. Stop saying that everything is racist and xenophobic. Maybe one day nothing will be, because we won't be allowed to say when it is. Perhaps the epicenter of campus insanity is in our nation's elite institutions, especially the Ivy League. Harvard University is no exception, especially in the time of COVID. Figure this one out. Researchers at Harvard University have officially claimed that COVID transmission wouldn't have been so bad if only the United States had paid reparations to black people. What? Dr. Eugene Richardson and Dr. Momin Malik looked into COVID transmission rates in the state of Louisiana, a state diverse in both wealth and race, and the nation of South Korea, a more homogenous nation in both categories. I guess it's pretty logical to compare one state's COVID rates to the rates of an entire country. Makes sense. Oh, and excuse me, doctors, but it seems that you imply that South Korea took COVID better because they were not of diverse race? How is that inclusive? What are you trying to say here? Together, Drs. Richardson and Malik drafted a research paper later published in the journal Social Science and Medicine. They claim reparations that allow people to not need frontline jobs would both spread the risk of these jobs across the population and may also lead to overall higher wages and better working conditions in frontline work, and that the number of new COVID infections should be more justly described as a form of symbolic violence, since institutionalized racism and sexism have supposedly contributed to viral spread. Yeah, I didn't get that either. They're basically saying that if there were reparations, less black people would feel the need to work frontline jobs, and that this would allow other people to get these jobs to make them more diverse. Okay, ready for this, Harvard? This is how many people are working frontline jobs by race. Asians at 40%, white Americans at 21.4%, Hispanics at 26%, and black Americans at 29.7%. It turns out we don't really need to help diversify frontline workers, since it's already incredibly diverse. But that doesn't matter, because apparently black Americans suffer the most inherently always. And by the way, how incredibly demeaning to suggest that any person can't just choose what job they want if they're willing to work hard enough. Only in the Ivy League can a theory like this even get attention, let alone be praised as a solution. Ah, those Harvard degrees. Have we really arrived at the point in human history where we feel like we've learned everything there was to learn in the world, so we're just making crap up now? Once again, racism has caused everything, except when it literally doesn't. Speaking of the Ivy League, the universities with some of the largest endowments have benefited the most from government coronavirus relief spending. When the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill was passed last spring, elite Ivy League institutions pocketed millions of dollars, even though their endowments had already increased throughout the beginning of the pandemic. Cornell University made out like bandits with $33 million in federal aid. Columbia with $32.9 million, Penn with more than $26 million, Harvard with more than $25 million, Yale with nearly $20 million, and Brown, Princeton, and Dartmouth with millions too. Keep this in mind. Some of these schools' endowments are the biggest in the world. We're talking tens of billions of dollars. Students most likely to put "Eat the Rich" on a picket sign wouldn't know their #privilege if it smacked them in the face. And by the way, aren't we supposed to be using COVID relief money to care for those most impacted by the virus, rather than the universities encouraging more shutdowns who could financially recover anyway? Oh, but that means the left would have to actually care about the very people it exploits. And in a leftist world, we can't have that. Honestly, there's no better place to end this week's State of Campus than with the unhinged hypocrisy of some of our biggest and dimmest elites. What has COVID been like on your campus? Have you had a crazy experience? Tell us your story in the comments section, and that's your State of Campus. COVID has changed the world, and in most ways, not for the better. Not wearing your mask is committing murder. Grades have been thrown out the window in the name of public health. Ivy Leagues are pocketing money more than ever before. And everything, as always, is inherently racist. We must stand up and fight against our institution's tyranny or risk seeing the greatest nation in the world crumble. This is your voice, your stories, your fight. Together, we are on the front lines.
In these United States of America, this great country of ours, we American Indians, we can be anything we want to be, except American Indians.
A lot of the soldiers were very aggressive, so the women did get raped.
What we call huelte. Huelte means a place of suffering, dying, starvation, nothing good. Just like Nazi concentration camps.
I didn't realize how corrupt things were. I didn't realize what kind of environment we were living in.
We had no running water, we had no power.
They de-incentivize people from, opportunity.
That's why our suicide rate has climbed up astronomical rates.
I moved from the poorest county in America, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, to the richest area in the country, the Navajo Indian Reservation. There is no difference. The poorest and richest reservations in our nation suffer from identical problems. This is not anything new. This is an everyday occurrence in all tribal governments.
So my life and my tale and my truth has been to fight socialism. And I'm hoping that I can wake up as many Navajos as I can to tell them that you can do this. Yeah, even if I have to fight you to save you. And I think that's what I'm also projecting to my people. Even though they are so harsh on social media and they completely hammer at me, I tell them, I'll be here even if I have to fight you to save you.
let's chop and give a little real talk, period. And welcome back to the MAGA Hulk Smash podcast, where we tear down liberal ideologies one smash at a time. Hulk Smash! Hello, and welcome. We gotta talk about something. We gotta talk about daggone cancel culture. Oh, I can't stand cancel culture. I know you can't stand it either. It is disgusting. It is despicable. But let's talk about cancel culture. Let's first define it. How about we do that? So it's defined as cancel culture, as Merriam-Webster says, the practice or tendency of engaging in mass canceling as a way of expressing disapproval and exerting social pressure. Oh, you better believe that's exactly what it is. So in essence, to sum up cancel culture is the mass canceling event by way of, one, expressing disapproval, and two, exerting social pressure. If that doesn't describe it, boy, I tell you, I don't know what does. Yes, indeed. So we got to really just dive into this cancel culture vulture, as I'll call it. So in essence, cancel culture is nothing more than what? Drum roll, please. Yes, indeed, mob rule. That's all cancel culture is. And this is what you need to understand about mob rule. The mob of cancel culture is like the power plant of cancel culture, right? It is the mitochondrion of a cell, for those who love biology, and it is the nuclear reactor to a country, okay? That's what the mob is for cancel culture. And I need you to understand this, ladies and gentlemen. Please understand and pay close attention. Daggone it, the mob is never a good thing. Because once you enter this mob, you lose your sense of identity. It's not about you as an individual anymore. It is about the collective. It's about the collective sphere of the mob. And that's what's so despicable, because you lose yourself. You become like the Borg, for all those Star Trek fans out there. It becomes very despicable. It's very depressing when you really think about it, because you better adhere to the mob. You better do as the mob says. And if you don't, you will find yourself being eaten by the very cancel culture vulture you were once a part of. When you're a part of the mob, you become a pack animal, feeding off the carcasses of all those who have been canceled and who are to be canceled. It's never a good thing to be a part of a mob, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to really understand that, and understand that well, because mob rule, as far as cancel culture is concerned, only seeks to destroy. That's it. That's all that's it. Mob rule. Look at BLM. Look at Antifa. Just a couple of mobs. That's all they are. That's all. That's it. Did they build up communities? Did they show their benevolence by protecting communities? No. They had fiery but mostly peaceful protests. No, they didn't. They destroyed buildings. They looted stores. They killed people. That's what the mob does. It only seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. That sounds very familiar. And I must say that the cancel culture vulture, the appetite of it is insatiable. It always needs to feed. It's always hungry. It's hangry. It gotta feed. It gotta eat. Oh, it will feed on the living. Oh, it will feed on the dead. It will feed on the legacies of the living and the dead, and it's despicable. People like, when it comes to the living, people like Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow, they came after him. You better believe they did. They came after Goya Foods. But that kind of backfired, didn't it? It kind of backfired, because everyone bought up Goya products. It was freaking fantastic. I had my fill. It was magically delicious. You understand what I'm saying? So, AOC, you are the real MVP. When it comes to Chris Harrelson, the host of ABC's The Bachelor, now what he went wrong is he bowed to the cancel culture vulture. You're never supposed to do that. You never bow, because they made up their mind 10 seconds ago before they even canceled you. So it doesn't matter how much you beg. It doesn't matter if you get on your knees and grovel. It does not matter. They will come for you. They will cancel you. And you solidified your fate by admitting defeat in the eyes of the general public. You should never bow to the cancel culture mob. And they went after lefty J.K. Rowling. Oh, I'm trying to tell you, it doesn't matter if you're of the right or of the left. They will come for you. Like I said earlier, if you fall out of sync with what the mob wants, you will be targeted. It's just that simple. And they even came after Gina Carano. But this is what I love about Gina Carano. She's a fighter. Just like when she was in the octagon, she fought against cancel culture, and you better believe, even though she was canceled for the Mandalorian or whatever that was, it doesn't matter. She still stood victorious, and now she has more opportunities than before because she didn't bow to the mob, and that's the key. You never bow to the mob. Now let's also talk about canceling the dead. Okay, the cancel culture vulture will not only go after the legacy of the living, it will also go after the legacy of the dead. So we'll go after Dr. Seuss's legacy as well as some of his books, in so much you can't even find them on eBay. Isn't this crazy? This is what it is when it comes to cancel culture. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're living, doesn't matter if you're dead. They will come after your carcass. They will pick the bones of your legacy clean. What about George Washington? What about Thomas Jefferson? What about Abraham Lincoln? You better believe our founding fathers, even those who stood for American precepts, it does not matter. Even if you shape this country, you better believe cancel culture will come after you. It is disgraceful. It is despicable. But this is what we've come to understand when it comes to cancel culture. Yes, indeed. Cancel culture will come after you posthumously and consume the legacies of all those not deemed woke enough in their day. Even though the term woke wasn't even applied until recently. If you're not woke enough, you better believe they're coming after you. Oh, it is disdainful. It is despicable. And we are going to dive more into it when we come back for our break. You better believe I have a whole lot more to say when it comes to cancel culture. So stay tuned. We will be right back. MAGA Hulk Podcast. Welcome back. Oh, welcome back to the MAGA Hulk Smash Podcast, where we tear down liberal ideologies one smash at a time. Oh, my goodness. I tell you, we were talking about cancel culture before the break. And I have a question. When it comes to cancel culture and when it comes to canceling people people posthumously, why is it that cancel culture posthumously consumes the legacies of people not even deemed woke enough in their day when people nowadays are not even deemed woke enough? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that kind of wild? It doesn't make much sense. If people nowadays with all these woke standards and all these woke platitudes and all this woke, everything's woke. If we're not woke enough today, how do we expect people back in the day, hundreds of years ago, like our founding fathers, how can we really expect them to be woke themselves and hold them to the same daggone standard? I mean, what makes us think that, what makes us think that we're going to be granted grace when it comes to wokeness as far as our founding fathers if we're not even granted grace today? It doesn't make much sense. It's terrible. It's despicable, like I said before. Like in the case of Dr. Seuss or those dead hundreds of years ago, like our founding fathers. Yes, let's just say it. There was racism back in the day. Yes, there were racist ideologies back in the past. But for Pete's sakes, can we not throw out the baby with the bathwater? Can we not do that? You know what? How about this? How about we just go over some of the accomplishments of our founding fathers? Let's just establish that. Let's see if this is what we truly want to cancel. Can we do that for a minute? Let's do it. Okay. Now, when it comes to these great men, they beat the most powerful military in the world to gain our independence. I should just end the show right there. That's it. Mic drop. Mic drop. Are you kidding me? They beat, I should say, because we didn't do anything. We're just reaping the benefits. They beat the most powerful military in the daggone world. This is what our founding fathers did. They established ourselves off the backs of thousands and so many lives that were lost over the blood, sweat, and tears. This is what America was built on. But never mind all that. Canceled. They set up a democratic republic with checks and balances. Now, does that really even apply today? Because it seems like these checks and balances are just null and void with the current administration. Oh, don't even get me started. If these founding fathers were alive today, they would be thoroughly upset with what America has transformed into. It is terrible, ladies and gentlemen, what we are witnessing before our eyes, and our founding fathers would be absolutely MAGA Hulk smash upset if they can witness what is going on right now. They set up these political parties, the left and the right, but we all know which ones are the good ones, right? You know, it's like the right, yes, indeed. So they also created the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which the left tends to trample on a daily basis, which they seem to, they try to say that the Constitution is the living, breathing document to be changed at will. Never mind that. Never mind the Constitution. Oh, it's just a living, breathing document. We can change it at will. We can change it with the times. That's what the left would love to do when it comes to our daggone Constitution that our forefathers, our founding fathers bled and died for. They created amendments. Oh, never mind that, right? Never mind the Second Amendment. Never mind anything of that nature. Never mind the fact that we have the right to bear arms. Left is trying to take care of that, nipping away at our constitutional rights, at our amendments, and daggone it, absolutely last, but definitely not least, they created America. This is what our founding fathers did. But since they harbor racial prejudices, which we already knew, mind you, they're now canceled. That's it. Canceled. Gotta go. This is how it is. Even though we knew their flaws already, they act like it's some new revelation. It's some new epiphany that they had when it comes to these founding fathers, our great warriors, our great presidents that stood for American ideals and precepts, who stood up for America itself. And it doesn't matter because you're canceled. It's just that simple. By the woke mob. It's disgusting, like I said, and it's despicable. So we already got to understand. We got to understand that the cancel culture vulture will always come after anybody, whether you're living, whether you're dead. And here's the thing. If this is the case, if this is the standard, let's just go after anybody and everybody. Let's go after you, huh? Let's go after you. Let's go after me. Why not? Why not? We all have dirt, ladies and gentlemen. No one's perfect. No one is above it all. There's only one person that was above it all, and his name is Jesus Christ. But you better believe they would absolutely come after him. You better believe they're trying to find dirt on that man. Good luck. You can't do it. But I must say, you got to understand that if you really believe that cancel culture is not going to come after you, you are living in a fantasy land. It comes after everybody. No one, and I do repeat, no one is exempt. No one's exempt. You got to understand that. So all you people who are all for cancel culture, all you people who are standing up cheering all these people getting canceled, these people's legacies being destroyed, these people's livelihoods being destroyed, people losing their jobs, they can't feed their families anymore because you decide as a woke entity to come after them. Expect them to one day turn on you. Why? Because you are not perfect. No one is. This is what you need to understand. So for all those in woke land, I suggest that you stand up, you stand back, and you fight. You fight hard when it comes to this cancel culture vulture. You make sure you yourself do not get canceled. You do not subscribe to such thing. I tell you, it would be for your benefit. Anyways, that's enough of that. When we come back, it is time for my Don't Make Me Angry segment. So stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back. I said welcome back, daggone, to the MAGA Hulk Smash podcast. And now we go to a segment I like to call Don't Make Me Angry, where we go over whatever comments, memes, tweets you have sent to my email inbox, which is at MAGAHulkSmash@gmail.com. So let's get right into it and see if you'd rather have me happy or angry today. Let's go to the first one. Yes, indeed. Yeah, don't make me angry. I'm trying to tell you something. Oh, our first one, Don't Like America Leave. And it has this young boy, looks like a cartoon character, ushering, like as if to usher a person out of a open door. And it says, I repeat, Don't Like America Leave. My sentiments exactly. I am so sick and tired of people always complaining about America. Oh, it's such a terrible racist place. Oh, it's so horrible. Oh, this capitalist system. Oh, we love big government. We want more big government. If you want smaller government, oh no, that's terrible. That's just terrible. We want communism. We want Marxism. We want every time a ism that ain't capitalism. Goodness gracious, I tell you, it's despicable. If you don't like our country, then why don't you go? It's that simple. Don't make me angry. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, okay, let's go on to the next one. Goodness gracious, I try to tell you. Remain terrified. It says there's a person kneeling on the floor with a mask on. And he's kneeling on the floor in front of a TV. And it says, remain terrified. Question nothing. Stay home. Oh, if this is not our current culture right now as we speak. Isn't this just despicable? This is what happens. This is what happens when you listen to that one eye, that look at that one eye called the television, and you have it tell you everything you want to know about life. It's your religion now. It's your religious idol. You bow to it. You might as well bow to this daggone thing. It's despicable. I'm telling you, it's despicable. Y'all need to stop looking at this television. Stop listening to these pundits who are sitting here keeping you afraid, keeping you petrified and mortified, staying at home with your mask on, driving in your car alone with your mask on. What are you? I'm getting angry, Lord have mercy. Oh, this is bad. This is very bad. We're 0 for 2. Y'all are making me very angry right now. I told you don't make me angry, but y'all don't care. So let's go on to the next one. Yes, indeed. I'm about to speak. Ooh, I'm about to smash. If this next one's a bad one. What is this? Watermelon. Okay, that's different. Okay, so this is how to pick a good watermelon. This is awesome. I love this. I really do love this. This is fantastic. This is what it's about. See, either someone really loves watermelon or they're saying that I should like watermelon. Probably because of the color of my skin, which is fantastic because there are some stereotypes that are absolutely correct. Yes, black people love watermelon, but everyone loves watermelon. And if we can go back to a point in time, like what, I don't know, the 90s where there's no political correctness, we can actually laugh about stereotypes and things that are stereotypical when it comes to a particular race or a particular color or ethnicity. If we can get back to times like that, oh, we will be a wonderful country. Oh, as a matter of fact, looking at this watermelon, that looks fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to lie. I love me some watermelon. Oh, you're making me happy right now. I love it. I appreciate you, whoever sent me that. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, okay. Oh, Martin Luther King. Let's go. Let's go. I have a dream. It's a picture of Martin Luther King, and it says, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the content or by their color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Well, Martin Luther King would be sorely upset if he was alive today. As a matter of fact, I do believe Martin Luther King himself would be canceled. The man himself. Whatever happened to judging people by the content of their character as opposed to the color of their skin? Whatever happened to that? Why can't we get back to that as a country? Why is it that when it comes to us as a people, the first thing we see when we look at each other is not who they are as a person? You can see their color. I'm not mad at people seeing color. That's not what I'm saying. But when you base everything on color, you see a black man walking down the street and you automatically think marginalized individual. They must need my help. If you're a white liberal, this is what they think. Oh, they must need my help. Marginalized individual. This is how it is when it comes to our country nowadays. Never mind the content of a person's character. Never mind who they are as a person. Never mind what kind of intellect they harbor. Never mind what kind of person they are inside. That's all null and void. It's all about the color of their skin. And based on the color of their skin, you are going to make every type of assumption that there is. That is not right. This is not what Martin Luther King wanted for us. This is not what he wanted for America. And he would be pissed off, just like I am, if he was alive today. Daggone, I thought I told you not to make me angry. Didn't I tell you? Oh, y'all not listening. Y'all want me to tear up the studio again, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Let's go on to the last one. Lord have mercy. Oh, our forefathers in 1944 facing certain death, and you see the invasion of Normandy, the soldiers storming the beach. And underneath it says, liberals in 2020 facing a 99.7 survival rate. And it has a person hiding behind his chair with a mask on. This is indicative of what's going on today. As we can see, we constantly see this on a consistent basis. Like I said earlier, people driving in their daggone cars by themselves with their mask on. What kind of sense does that make? We're sitting here scared, shivering in our boots, shiver me timbers, but daggone it, when it comes to our forefathers, when it comes to those who fought before, they were storming the beaches of Normandy. I am so upset. Y'all wanted me angry today, and that's what you're going to get, daggone it. I am mad, I am upset, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I need some time to calm down. So let's go to break. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to the MAGA Hulk Smash podcast. You can definitely find me at turningpointusa.com. You can also find me on YouTube at Turning Point USA. Yes, indeed. Look me up there as well. You can also find me on Instagram. Lord have mercy. I'm stumbling, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let me do it. Oh, that's how angry you made me. You can also find me at Instagram at Real MAGA Hulk. You can also find me on Twitter, Real MAGA Hulk, and Facebook at Stephen Davis. And just remember, never bow to the cancel culture vulture. It will not end well for you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week for some more liberal ideological destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time.
It was time for him to go. I couldn't do nothing about it. That's the way it is. Someday you're gonna go.
Thank you so much for that midweek soiree reality check, Grandma. Really appreciate it. Thank you. People are saying the Gabby Petito case proves that the media only cares about missing white women. But is that true? This Disney Marvel star admits he wrote pro-pedophilia comments a few years ago. The bizarre thing the mayor of San Francisco said when she was caught partying without a mask. And Rose McGowan keeps spilling boiling hot conservative on Hollywood. And of course, I am here for it. I'm Alex Clark, and this is POPlitics. The story that has completely taken over not only our news feeds, but our hearts and minds is the Gabby Petito case. But per usual, some people in the media and otherwise are claiming that Gabby's case highlights an important problem in our country. Missing white women are given special coverage compared to missing women of color.
No! Hold up! Time out! Time out! Y'all take a chill. You need to cool that out.
Or what if, and this is just a theory, this case is getting so much attention because there are so many clues and she kept track of her entire trip on social media. So the public can follow along and try to solve the mystery. Not every missing person has YouTube videos and minute-by-minute photographs of their last moments.
Okay, that makes sense.
One article said in 2018, 612,846 missing person cases were entered into the National Crime Information Center records. So why is Gabby Petito Petito's case special. I don't think this case is special because she's white. I think it's popular because of the circumstances and details of the case and the amount of details we know.
Me and Brian just got up and got ready, made the bed in the tent, set up. I think our plan for today is to just hang out here in the tent. Brian's stretching, doing some morning yoga.
There are some fair points being made, however, especially about Indigenous girls. Insider News tweeted, the disappearance of Gabby Petito in Wyoming has caused a national outcry. However, missing and murdered Indigenous people get less media coverage. In the same state, 710 Indigenous people were reported missing from 2011 to 2020, a report found. It's true, there is something very bad happening in Indigenous communities. Ironically, the same people bringing this up now that Gabby's case is getting so much attention are the news, and so one has to wonder, why weren't you covering these cases when they happened then?
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to.
There's tons of reasons why so many Indigenous missing persons cases end up as dead ends. Reservations haven't wanted police anywhere near them for decades. The cases go unsolved because a lot of times the tribes don't cooperate. Girls are murdered by their own families or they're running away from abuse. Sometimes they're even missing because they don't want to be found. You know who passed a bill to help address missing and murdered Native Americans as recently as 2020? President Donald Trump. It was called Savannah's Act, and according to USA Today, it helped to establish national law enforcement guidelines between the federal government and American Indian tribes to help track, solve, and prevent crimes against Native Americans. The law is named after Savannah LaFontaine Graywind, a pregnant 22-year-old Spirit Lake tribal member from North Dakota who was killed in 2017.
Brooke Cruz conspired to kidnap Savannah Graywind's unborn child.
I was gonna take her baby. I mean, that, I guess was the ultimate goal.
Investigators found out that she had been faking a pregnancy for months, but according to Cruz, she actually believed she was pregnant.
January, February, I believed that I was pregnant. Hindsight being what it is, it must have been one of those situations where, you believe it, you want it so bad that I don't know, my body started responding like I was pregnant. I was measuring myself, I was listening to a baby's heartbeat. I mean, it's insane. It's really insane.
You probably don't know about the Savannah Act because the same media complaining about how racism is allegedly keeping you from knowing about missing Indigenous people also kept you from knowing that a certain president was taking the steps to help this huge issue. The more you know.
Good to know.
And if you thought that was disturbing, here's another highly disturbing story today. Disney Marvel star Simu Liu wrote a post on Reddit in 2015 saying that being a pedophile is no different than being gay and that he's sympathetic to people born with those urges.
This is nasty.
Here's exactly what the Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings star wrote. I recently did a show in which I played a pedophile and did a significant amount of research. In the end, the role completely changed the way I look at pedophilia and has made me much more sympathetic to anyone who was born with these urges. From a biological standpoint, it's no different than being gay, a small mutation in the genome that defines our sexual preferences. Depending on what area of the world you were born and what time, it also may have been a perfectly acceptable thing to act on those urges. What? Breitbart said, the post went on to affirm that while we all know that taking advantage of minors is wrong, society is addressing pedophilia in completely the wrong way.
Until I've simply decided I am never leaving my house again.
Liu went on saying that we should learn from our mistakes as a society with how we used to treat homosexuals and treat pedophiles a lot better, blah, blah, blah. And he hasn't denied this Reddit post, by the way. All he's done is tweet this. Twitter is a slanderous place sometimes, and it feels good to shut down trolls and bad faith actors who want to drag your name through the mud.
That's concerning.
I don't know if we have any San Francisco conservatives in the house, but holy crap, literally got poop in the streets. How are you holding up? I think San Fran may be the worst place to live in California.
San Francisco.
San Francisco!
The mayor there, London Bridge, or whatever her name is fallen down. Just kidding, it's worse. She's consistently made sure that the city has had the strictest lockdown rules in the country and just implemented an indoor mask rule no matter what your Jabba Juice status is. And yet, she was caught partying indoors without one. But wait till you hear what her excuse was. She was excited because a band she likes played together, Tony, for the first time in 20 years, and she was feeling the vibes. So, can we really blame her?
I got up and started dancing because I was feeling the spirit. And I wasn't thinking about a mask.
Okay, great. So if the situation passes the vibe check, essentially, we don't need a mask then? Target is a vibe. Church is also a vibe. Concerts, vibe. Sporting events, I can make those a vibe. What I'm trying to say is, no masks forever.
Well, that sounds even better.
You know who I am dying to have on the spillover? Rose McGowan. I am trying my absolute hardest to get in touch with her because I don't know anyone who has more fascinating stories about exposing Hollywood than her. Do you? Like when she told Tucker Carlson that Harvey Weinstein was using illegal intimidation tactics to try to silence her. Listen to how scary this is. She said, they were flying drones around my window every day. This is 3 years before the Weinstein news broke. I was trailed, almost driven off the road. They stole my headlights out of my car. They placed trackers in my car. I thought I was manifesting everything in my life. Turns out my whole house was bugged. I believe every word of this. I've also been trying to track down former child actors who were sexually abused in Hollywood to come on the podcast, the spillover, and it is almost impossible to find. These kids are paid off, or they're so terrified of speaking out that they won't do it, or it's just too traumatizing for them to tell the story more than once. Hollywood is a dark and scary place, man.
And you, remember, you saw nothing.
Okay. Wasn't paid to say this, although he did send me the book to check it out, but I actually am loving it and reading it. Will Witt's new book, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, so good, you guys. It consists of chapters dedicated to subjects and how to debate them. Like, I'm obsessed with this. Like, if you want to know how to debate free college, abortion, free healthcare, socialism, it's all in this book, and he has data and points to back it all up. And if you're wanting to brush up on skills so you know how to answer your more liberal friends and family members, this book is totally for you. Very proud of you, Will, and I wanted to share because I know you guys ask for this stuff. Like, I need sources. Where's the source so I can debate this or write a paper about this? It is in this book. Anyway, it is Wednesday, so only 2 more days till the second episode of The Spillover. Subscribe to that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review, please. Then, don't forget to like this episode. You know, the heart button. Discuss the allegations that only missing white girls get news coverage, and share this episode to your stories and hit that save button. We're back on Instagram tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I gotta take a breath. Okay. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is POPlitics.